It's a couple of bums hanging out in an expensive RV.
Ish.
Ish.
Definitely bums, though.
Yeah.
You can tell by the rip in the jeans.
I'm still good. Mine are just dirty. Ugh. I need some shout. Okay, take it away. So we're filming a video for Rob's channel. He's going to be interviewing me. He came up with a slew of very insightful questions. Like, what's my favorite color? Just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. That is essential.
And I had nothing else to do today. So here we are. So anyway, he's recording.
That makes me feel special. The poor man had nothing else to do.
Nothing else. What else? What else?
I feel good about that. That just makes me feel great right there.
My mic working?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay, cool.
As long as the green button's on, you're good to go.
The green bar, you take it away. This is your show now.
All right, so first real question is, what is it that inspired you, not just to build the van, because I get it, you wanted to save a little bit of money, but why start a YouTube channel while you're building the van?
Oh, I mean, for me, that's personal because I was always into movie making, right? And I already had the YouTube channel. It existed. It just wasn't a van life channel, so like at all, right? It was a movie review channel that I had had for years prior. So I had been watching other YouTubers, such as Van City Van Life and Foresty Forest and Combi Life, amongst others. And I said, I could probably do this. I have a phone. I'm going to build a van. Why not catalog it? It actually, in a conversation with my cousin very near the beginning of my journey before I was living in the van full time, it came up that it's a great way to like create a digital photo album for Brooklyn, my daughter.
Absolutely.
As well, right? And then I hadn't really thought about it that way back then, or yet. I hadn't thought about it that way. And as soon as she said that, I kind of fell in love with the idea even more. I'm like, that's right. And that's kind of benefited me as, you know, march through into the future, keeping that in the back of my mind, like every little thing that I chronicle on there, I will be able to look back at, and if something was to befoul me or whatever, she would be able to look back and see that. Hopefully, I would pray that she can see what her dad did for her, right? But
exactly. Well, it's one of those things. Like when you start recording things like that, you're building your future, you're future-proofing your. How do I say that exactly? I'm not sure. Anyway, forget about that for a second. Let's go back to the questions before I confuse myself. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you were building? So you're building and you're recording. So what was it that what gave you a hard time?
Honestly, it wasn't the recording. The recording was easy because for me, like I said, I'd been making movies with my friends since I was little. So setting the camera up wherever and finding interesting angles, that was the easy part. For me, I'd focus more on what was the challenge about building, and that's because I'd never built anything in a van, right? The most I had done, it was when I was living in an apartment, I might have had a cat that had an accident or 15 on a carpet. So I ended up tearing up all the carpet and laying not linoleum, laminate floorboards. Those interlocking floorboards. So I'd done that just via YouTube. So I was able to take that knowledge that I learned there and put it into the van. That was the easy part. Once I got working up the walls of the van and the roof of the van, that's the stuff that sort of becomes tricky. Because nothing is level, nothing is even, everything's wonky and janky. Because any building I had done before that, nice straight edges, right? Even when I brought my friend Mike in near the beginning to help me, he would just, straight edges, here you go, boom. I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's a perfect box, but I can't put it up against the wall flush, right? So that was one of those things. But again, I started leaning on other YouTube videos, people that had also had these experiences and faced these challenges. So that was the hardest part for me. But it was also fun. As soon as you're faced with those challenges, it's fun to see how you can tackle them. And then when you do overcome them and you get that stupid hanging cabinet to fit, you feel really like proud of yourself, right? You've accomplished something that felt impossible not too long ago. So
exactly. It makes it. And I noticed when you were doing the ceiling, you propped it up. You had a board holding up this ceiling, and it was. Mm-hmm. I'm watching that. I was like, that is the dumbest thing that works.
It's true. Yeah, that video is awesome. I love that video. And that was, yes, the roof and the walls, the insulation. Yeah. The roof itself, that was kind of easy. I used my hand and I just put screws into the studs. But yeah, the insulation, I stuck it up there with spray foam, and it doesn't become sticky very fast. So I had my grandpa's old bottle jack and 2x4s, and then like pieces of 1/8 plywood that I just used as like to press against the insulation, and then I jack the jack up and press the 2x4 into it, and then just leave it there overnight. Looks like a nightmare, and it absolutely does. You look like you glance at that, especially if you're probably like a professional, you probably laugh. But it's like one of those. That's one of those things that if it works, you just go with it.
See, that was one thing. Like being from working in a construction background, when I looked at it, it was like that is the dumbest shit. But at the same, it works.
Yeah.
How can you knock it? It works. Like if I was in my backyard trying to build a vent, I'd do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I know I would. Given what you had, I know I would do it the same way. Which is stupid, but I mean that's.
I mean, I don't even actually like. I don't even know what the better way to do that would be for a van. Honestly,
I don't know either.
Right, unless you want to sit there all night and hold it up yourself, or what? It's just all about. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's just one way of insulating for sure. But yeah, like if anybody has a better way of doing that, let him know in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the things that you learned when you were first building it? And what was it? There's a two-part question. So what did you learn while you were building? But what influenced the way that you built the rig?
Okay, so what influenced the way I built it?
Yeah, so like for example, instead of having the bed going one way, you have it going another way. So what influenced that decision?
How big I am. Like that, and that's it. Because I had watched a bunch of people that sleep, let's say for the sake of argument, east to west. Yeah. Right, left to right in your van, and that's great because if you in your head you look at the small space and you're like, if I can sleep this way, that means the bed can be as far back as I need it to be, and I can have this much more room for living space. Yeah. Unfortunately, both my parents are tall, so am I. So that just was there's no way unless I wanted to sleep in the fetal position every night, and I already have neck problems, so that was ill-advised. So yeah, that's not, like it was the size of me. That's what really attributed to the way I built Lucky, the way how I am in this space, right? So my bed went north to south, right? It had to. There was no other way around it so that I could fit. And then that itself led me to like being able to build stuff beside the original bed, and you get creative that way. So that's the stuff that really, it was just me, my size, that sort of drove how I built it. What was the first part of the question?
It was what influenced you what did you learn?
Oh, what did I learn while I was building it?
Because there's a lot of different things. Like you have the kitchen set up a little bit different than what I would have done. You first had the sink on the one side, and like I had done that.
Okay, so again, how much did I learn? I don't know that I learned much while I was building it the first time. It was more living in it after the fact where I learned things. But again, not only did my size speak to how I built it, also what I had on hand at the time. So back then, when I was first building the van, there wasn't a lot of money. I lost my job. I was on EI, that sort of thing, I had a whole bunch of furniture, old IKEA cupboards, DVD shelves, dressers from my grandparents. And so that original build was out of all of that stuff. So I was repurposing what I had on hand. It is great. I love that build. But that also, like I said before, about how things don't quite fit into a van, none of that shit was ever meant to fit into the van in a nice, succinct way. So you're already janky. But that led to how I built my van the first time, was just what I had, limitations on what I had. I didn't want to, nor did I have a bunch of money to be spending at the time, right? So it was what I had on hand, which was great. I think if anybody can do that or has the ability to try it that way, I think from that you will learn a lot. Because to go back to the first part of the question, I learned how to fit all this janky shit into a small space and make it work, right? Like I put dresser drawers inside a TV stand that were never meant to go together, but it worked very well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's the only thing that really matters. Like it worked. So what improvements or changes did you prioritize at that time? Like I'm sure you had an idea of, well, if my bed has to be here, then I have to have the sink in whatever location versus where it is now. And you would think about all those little things. So what did you prioritize when you were doing that? Like the bed obviously took up. Yeah, you had to build that.
I mean, obviously, yeah. And the bed for me, unfortunately, my creativity and aspirations got away on me with the bed. And I've talked about this a lot on my channel, but I built my bed based off of another YouTube video I had seen where this guy had built this bed that could turn into a couch. And you see that on paper or on video, right? You're like, that's amazing. Why would I not have to have the ability to put a couch in my tiny home on wheels? That's incredible. It can slide out, it folds down, slides back in, it's a couch. And that was my priority. I did that, and I've got my place. I can sit here. I can put a TV here if I wanted. Then when I'm tired, I slide it out and I go to sleep. Bob's your uncle. No looking back. This is the dumbest thing you can do. I'm not even like in a small space, living in it full time. Very ill-advised. Do not do, right? What he did for a camper. If you're going out on the weekends or out, camping trips during the summer and whatnot,
Yep.
Great. Have a fucking couch. But when you are living in it full time, storage is a premium. As we were talking about earlier, every little square inch matters. And I think I turned it into a couch 5 or 6 times when I was still doing movie reviews. But after that, it became too much of a headache because everything that could have been being stored underneath the bed was literally on the driver's seat and the passenger seat and looked like my mother's worst nightmare. Let's put it that way.
Well,
right?
yeah.
So I prioritized my bed. I prioritized that just because, again, I thought it was cool. So that was one of the first things. That was actually what prompted my rebuild, was the bed. So it was like the first thing I wanted to do in the first build, and it was the first thing I wanted to correct in the second build. And in terms of where everything else just kind of went, because I knew I wanted the bed at the very back of the van, that dictated where everything else went. If my bed is here, I'm going to want to have access to my clothes first thing in the morning, overhead storage for clothes.
Yep.
And then if that's how that area is, this middle section of the van now needs to be my kitchen area. And that's where all of that's going to exist. And again, that's just like, okay, well, that's a TV stand. It's now a countertop or whatever. Right? Pardon me. It's going right through me.
That's perfectly okay. Sort of the...
Marcy's right off camera. Sorry.
So now the big question is, with your current setup,
Yeah.
what features do you want to improve with what you have now?
Spoilers for my channel.
Well, absolutely. I mean, teasers, little teasers. We don't have to explain the whole thing.
It's fine. I was a big believer in the first couple years of my van life. I actually made a joke out of it, of having a sink in the van. I was like, this is why it's actually transferred over the Leatherman now. Reason XYZ to have a Leatherman. That started as reason number 9,472 to have a sink in a van, right? That was the joke I made back then, and I died on that hill for a very long time. But I died on that hill appropriately because that sink worked. This new sink sucks, and it does not. I haven't even used it. I thought I was so smart. I'm gonna cut a hole in the floor of the van. It's gonna drain out onto the ground. I will be respectful. I won't do it in a Walmart parking lot, and I didn't.
Well, of course.
But like
not.
when I'm camping or out in the bush, whatever, who gives a shit? Send your gray water down there, not your black water. That's gross. But
Yeah, Blackwater's...
not only did I not
Don't
really
do that.
Not only did I not really do that, the sink shape I went with is bullshit. So that's changing, or it's already changed, depending on when you watch this. That's just one of those things, right? Like I thought I did, but that's growth. I would like to think.
Yeah, it is.
I can admit that I was wrong. You don't need a sink.
Well,
You can just use your pee bottle.
It all boils down to personal preference. Yeah, you could. I've got a jug myself.
That'll sober you up
Small
real
bottle.
quick when you're brushing your teeth and spitting into the same rim that you... Okay, moving on.
Yeah. Contact, lips, things.
No, you don't want
a
this.
thing.
Not ill-advised.
So here's an interesting question for you.
Yeah.
How does your background in photography
Oh.
actually influence the way that you're doing your YouTube videos now?
It's hard. I mean, without like getting too long-winded about it, you would understand what I'm saying. But to like make it make sense to anybody who might be watching, it's the little not even technological things, but like the techniques and stuff, like the rule of thirds.
Yep.
Right? Using that. If you know what that is, turn the grid option on your phone. But the rule of thirds that I learned, lighting, right? And I don't mean lighting patterns, because in photography, we'll get real technical for a second. But when you talk about like Rembrandt lighting or split lighting or full lighting or fill light and all of that stuff,
Yep.
That's not really what I mean. That's super important with still photography. It's important with movies as well. But with the way I film and how I film, with the equipment that I have, the more light, the better. And that all comes down to the size of the sensor in my camera, right? So I shoot primarily on my phone. Fucking tiny sensor.
Oh, yeah.
So the more light you have, the better. And I learned that. That was something I didn't really know until I learned that before, right? So if anybody doesn't know that, throw more light on whatever you're shooting. You're going to get a better image overall, no matter what your sensor is, right?
Yeah.
That's why flashes are a thing. And also, I guess... it's not really a photography background, but the self-taught stuff of editing, right? Like learning that. I mean, just the fact that I came into, I guess, my YouTube career already knowing all of that again from when I grew up. Like, because I grew up making movies, and back in the day, the very first way we edited was VCR to VCR.
Yeah.
Right? We would record on one cassette tape, and then we'd hook two VCRs up. And if we want to get rid of the bloopers, you would record on the second one. When you get to a blooper, you pause it, fast forward on the first one, hit record again. That's how you cut your bloopers out. Holy crap. And that's essentially what you do now. It's just a lot easier by clicking the mouse. And I taught myself that. So it was an easy transition to take all of that stuff and apply it to making videos, right? I don't know if that answers the question sufficiently, but...
Yeah, it does. Well, it brings up another question. Like, have you ever thought about getting a small external light? Like, I've got a small light over in my little sling bag here. It's just a small little, let's say 4-inch by 3-inch. Okay, small little light, wildly powerful for what it is. But have you ever thought about something like that?
Yeah, I actually have one. I do. It's like a little, I don't know, I think it's Ulanzi actually. And it's a square, so it's dimensioned. Yeah, it's just a square light that I could put on the top of like a tripod, just very similar to yours in the cold shoe. And I've used it sparingly. Let's say there's probably 2 videos on my channel where I have pulled it out. And that it comes in handy like, calm down. But, no, you calm down. I pulled it out like camping at night.
Yeah.
Right? But by and large, with the way I film, because it's daily life, I always try to draw the least amount of attention to myself as I can. So throwing a big light on my camera, even if it's at night in the Walmart parking lot, I don't want people looking at me, which is funny to say, right? But when I'm in the moment of filming, I'm not really worried about that, but it would absolutely help. If I was doing more stuff at night out in the bush by myself, take that for what you will, then I should probably lean on something like that a little bit more. You'll see me try to do that in the van a little bit more frequently with my lighting and whatnot, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside where it becomes the biggest problem, when you're filming like dusk and onwards, yeah, I've considered it. I don't like people looking at me.
Oh, there you go.
It's weird to say, though.
It's always a thought. Okay, so next we have, what motivated you to live in a van full time?
Desperation.
Well, you've got options. I mean, you could go to a small studio apartment if you wanted to.
No, you'd not. I mean, okay, and I'm not trying to like play the violin just for me. I'm just gonna try to destroy your curtains. But I mean, like the thing is I've actually talked about this a bit on my channel. Nothing's ever black and white. I'm a very gray person when it comes to the reasons why I do most things in my life. And that's the same for why I decided to live in a van. You're absolutely right. There's options: studio apartment, this, that, and the other thing. At the end of the day, I wanted to. Like, be all end all. I really wanted to. I had fallen in love with this idea. I'd watched it on YouTube. All of these other people. I had romanticized it to the ends of the earth and back in my mind. And I knew I could do it because, again, like I've spoken about my grandfather in the past and all of the like work ethic that he instilled in me and being able to fix things and build things with my own hands.
Yeah.
And actually find a way to apply that. And I think I really needed a win. As much as I wanted to, I was down on my luck at that point, broke up with the mother of my child, lost my job due to the pandemic, all this bullshit. And so I needed a win for myself as well. And then I don't want to say lesser reasons, but because I probably always would have figured out a way to remain here and stay in my daughter's life, because that is my be all end all number one reason for why I do most things these days. But the rest of my family was moving to BC or had already moved to BC, which is an entire province over. It's a 6.5-7 hour drive away. So in a really sort of dark place in my mind, I think, what if I hadn't done this? Would I have had to have gone with them? Because I didn't have a job at the time. There wasn't a lot of opportunity out there yet. But I was a brand new dad. And the idea of that even becoming a reality, as much as I love my family, wasn't a possibility, right? So I needed to do everything I could to remain in her life. So yeah, you say, you could also get a studio apartment.
Well, it's an option.
100%, and I'm not knocking that it's not an option. But the cost of rent and everything, even for a studio apartment, was out there, like high up there. And not only did I not have the job, I may or may not have been extremely irresponsible with money and had and still have quite a sizable amount of debt that I can't attribute to anything. I can attribute it to stupidity. Like it's not like, oh, I bought this or I bought that. There's like nothing to show for it. Just moronic decisions that I made, and I amassed this huge amount of debt. So again, putting myself into a studio apartment and forward thinking, what's that going to be like for me and my baby? What's that going to be like for me and my toddler? What's that going to be like for me and my little girl as she grows up? What am I going to be able to provide for her?
Exactly.
Right? I feel like I'm a classic overthinker, and more often than not, that's a detriment for sure. But sometimes it can be a saving grace as well. And in this case, I think it was, because I started to think that, and I'm like, if I do that, sure, I'll have her, but I'll be dead tired. I'll be miserable. I'll still be working for somebody else, and I won't have as much time available. Right now, I still had that in my mind that I had to get a job. YouTube wasn't paying anything. I was just putting videos out for the sake of putting videos out, right? Love the idea of it. I had an audience of, we always call them the OG 200, and like that was great, and I was enjoying doing that, but it wasn't paying the bills, so to speak, right? But the van, so like to go back to the idea that I wanted it. I wanted to try the van life. And I knew I needed to scratch that itch. I'm a very stubborn person. When I get something stuck in my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So like, no matter whether it's today or tomorrow, it's going to happen. So I just did it with an incredible amount of support from my family. I willed it into existence, basically. And then I hit the ground running, and I haven't looked back since, really. Like, that's like the easiest way to say that. It was just, but yeah, to put it like a finite thing is I wanted it.
Well, there you go. I mean,
right.
It's that's what it is. I mean, just own that it is a thing, and that's perfectly okay.
100%.
I can relate to 100% of what we're talking about, but then that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how has your lifestyle really changed? Like before you moved into the van, you had a certain lifestyle. You went to the movies, you went out to dinner, you did things, you had a life. Now that you live in the van, how has that changed? And we're not going to play around. We know that's changed, but how? To what degree?
I shit in a bucket.
Well, that's a big thing.
That's the obvious joke answer, though, right? Like, it's because okay. So it's funny that you say that. It sounds like you had a little bit of an agenda thing, but we're not going to lie. We're going to get rid of because it has changed. Has it though?
Well, that's the question.
And it really is perspective, and this is probably going to come into a play on some of the other questions, I think. Yeah. But it really is perspective and the attitude you have going into it. Yeah. So it's the obvious things immediately. Bathroom capabilities, and that goes for both where you're dookying and where you're also washing your pits, right? Like that's exactly. It's going to change now, and I get it. Some people have bigger rigs and they can have showers and this, that, and the other thing. But by and large, when you're building a cargo van, you don't have that available, right? That's just not a thing. But when you're in a city and like a center like this, there's plenty of options. You just got to look. I mean, it just takes a minute to be like, there's gyms everywhere, right? I was also very fortunate. I had family, right? So it changed in the sense that, and that's actually a double-edged sword in that sense. It's like all of a sudden I don't have my own private bathroom, but I had a bathroom opened up to me from my family member, my cousin, and it's kind of funny to make that the one reason. And it's not the one reason, but that's where I started showering quite often at the beginning, because I had my little girl every day of the week back then. You know, her mom was fortunate enough to not lose her job during that time, and I was the primary like caregiver for in those early years. So we were over at my cousin's house a lot, because I don't care what anybody says, and I was a big believer of it too. You can't raise a baby in a van. Now, you could if both people are on board. Let's put it that way. But being stuck in a city in a tiny cargo van, that's ill-advised. So I was very fortunate that my cousin had my back in that way. So it started with the bathroom, but that was a huge benefit because my relationship with my cousin grew. Something that like didn't think was going to happen in my life. Like we were always on good terms, but I'm so very thankful that relationship came out of it, which I thought was really cool. And I always will think that, right? Also, it's just, I'm out and about in my area more.
There you go.
Right? Like I was it's so funny because we look back at that time and all of us, we were locked down, we were watching Netflix, we were whatever it might have been. Nobody was leaving their house. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. The world was on fire as far as we knew, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But even before that, right, I was still very much I didn't stay at home. I would much rather stay at home, watch movies, play video games, chill out, than go out, waste my money, drinking, having fun, socializing. That's not really who I ever was. But this forced me to change that. Not necessarily go out and socialize and whatnot, but just get outside more. And I've tried to talk about that as much as I can on my channel because like I live in a city where there's a provincial park that encompasses an entire south section of the city. And that's basically a second home to me now. That's not something I would ever have done back then. And I find that really interesting because I made a whole video about this very early on about the point of my van was not to be in the van. Right? Because I got a lot of questions about like, what are you going to do? You can't stand up. You can't do this. You can't do that. I'm like, you're right, but you're focusing on the can'ts. What about the can do's, right? So for me, it was about getting outside more. And so not only have I gotten outside more, just on the daily, going down to the park and walking around and being outside more, but it also just in my own backyard of all of the camping and stuff that's available around the city, stuff that I guess took for granted would be a good way to put it. The van inspired me to get the hell out and go see more of it, right? It wasn't part of the plan, but it was a very nice sort of like after effect, right? So that changed my life for sure, just being outside more. You see a lot of these van life channels where that's what it's all about, and that's all well and good. But I think even if that's not your aspiration, it's still going to happen. And I think you're going to notice the benefits of it more than the negative effects. You could be a stick in the mud. Nobody's stopping anybody from getting a minivan, putting a build in it, and then just staying in the Walmart parking lot and never coming out of your van. Nobody's stopping you, but you might be a little bit more miserable. I don't know, right?
Well, you might be.
I don't know.
It's one of those things. I mean, if you're that kind of introverted, maybe that's your world.
True.
But it's one of those things like we talked about before. We talked about this before we actually started rolling at cameras. You're more private than you are introverted because you're going out and you're doing things, but you're very private. You want to keep things private. And I totally respect that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, let's just call it for what it is. So now you're changing your lifestyle where you're getting out more. You're seeing more things. You're going for more walks where you didn't before. Whether you're filming or not, it's beside the point.
Yes.
You're doing stuff that you weren't necessarily doing before.
Yeah. And
I think that's fabulous.
Yes, I do too. And it can be as simple as going down to that provincial park and using the washrooms, because public heated washrooms, or as grandiose as going to a different location of the province that I live in and seeing something that I haven't seen before. And then everything that's in between those two options, right? It's really kind of cool. Like I'm not trying to romanticize it. I still live in a Walmart parking lot by and large, but again, it comes back to what I said before about perspective and how you look at and how you approach your van life, or your nomadic journey, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like your lifestyle, no matter what, has to change.
Yeah.
So it's just the question was, how much has it changed, really? So now the other question is, so how do you approach filming daily? How do you approach the daily filming? Like the bigger question is, do you script part of it? Do you have a set agenda where today I'm going to talk about A, B, and C? Or do you just let it organically happen? Here's my day. Here's what happened. Like, how do you really approach that?
I mean, that's the whole thing has definitely changed since the beginning, right? Because back in the beginning, it was like, let's say, the honeymoon phase of film, especially when my channel took off, right? And you get that inspiration and that like energy boost to like, oh, I've got an audience now and I want to keep going with that and I want to show them as much as I can. And you're kind of learning together a little bit, even though your audience might know more than you at that point, because there's so much out there and regarding information. But for me, as somebody who's creating it, that was super cool. And that would like inspire me to do the daily stuff. And I'd show people everything, right? As time goes on, as a creator, you're like, I don't want to show you me going to the library anymore. That's not interesting. It's not engaging for me, right?
Yeah.
So I would never ever say that any of my stuff is scripted. And I don't think that's what I don't think you necessarily meant like I wrote it down. The most I would script in my head is like you said, is like, okay, when I film tomorrow, it's going to be about this. And I will give myself a little bit of a skeleton outline. I'll wake up, I'll play with my pussy, otherwise known as Penny. I'll have breakfast.
As you do.
As you do. I'll do my Walmart walk. I might, and then I'm going to make a meal today. And how am I going to make that meal? Because I'm in a van. What am I going to use to do that? And the thing is, as much as you can plan that outline in your head, shit is almost always going to happen that you weren't ready for. Simple as running into somebody, or as complicated as a check engine light coming on, right? Like there was a video very recently where I drove south of the city and I went to a different town and I was going out there to cook. And my van didn't start once I got stopped there. And all of a sudden I was having all of these issues. And that's it. That's organic. That's life. And that's almost makes it a little bit more engaging as a creator. Because like, okay, I don't have to talk about jalapeno poppers for a second. I can actually talk about what the hell is going on with my van. You know what I mean? Because we all have our lives and nobody's life is that interesting. Let's call a spade a spade. And you can get a lot of feedback from your community saying, I just want to watch you brush your teeth, like, or whatever, right? Like it's not hyperbole, but it's an exaggeration for sure. But it's flattering to hear, but it's very easy to let that go to your head and be like, okay, well, I don't have to do much. But it's a evil begets evil situation. If I start to think that way, I'll start acting that way.
Exactly.
And then I realize it, and then when something does happen, I'm like, oh, frick, something's going wrong. That actually inspires me, not all the time, but if something catastrophic happens, I'm almost more inspired to go move my camera around a little bit more frequently and capture the shot in what I'm doing. Rather than me, I could still do the same thing, but now it's just different angles of me making pancakes. It's interesting in that sense.
Well, my big thing, and you're going to be able to relate to this, my big thing with having a rig the size that I do is that I've more than once sworn at it saying I'm never going to lack content. Because I plan to do something, and like I had the locks 3 days. I swore at the locks that I had on the back. They were locking pins, and the pins were seized because Marcy was sitting over there, and she's totally innocent in this because I did the exact same thing. We went through Great Falls. We were coming from Great Falls into Canada. There's a huge area where it's just salt.
Yeah.
Neither one of us thought about it. It's like it started to snow. Starts to snow on top of salt. What do you think happens? It melts, and all of a sudden it gets into everything.
Yeah.
We didn't have the covers on the pins. I didn't think about it. 3 weeks goes by, and it's like, why is this not unlocking? Like, 3 days, cursing, swearing, fighting with the thing, couldn't get it. Heat it up, put the lube in there, the degreaser, put everything I could in there. Nothing. And then I finally just said, to hell with this. Knocked the inside of it out, and I figured, okay, that'll fix it for sure, and it'll just pull out. Like, nope, that didn't work. It's like, I know what I'll do. I'm going to drill it. And that'll work with every lock. And I'm just going to drill the pins out.
Oh.
Yeah, that didn't work. So eventually I said, you mother son of a... And I took my Sawzall, I'm like, you are going to die.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to die. I don't care. So I ended up just cutting the thing off.
Your frustration got you, and you just think you get to that point. And I think that's with anything. 100%. Especially depends on who you are as a person, for sure. Like if you're going to determine personality to get something done, yeah, absolutely. And when stuff like that starts to go wrong, like you said, you'll never lack for content. It's true until you do, and you get it exactly where you want it. It'll happen.
There's so much content with this rig; it's unreal.
It's good. It's good. Blank slate.
It is a good thing.
Slates are nice.
It is nice to have, but it's one of those things. I don't expect it to stay that way. I don't expect that on my channel. I'll just rely on things going wrong or things going sideways. Yeah. Because you can't.
No, no. Oh, no, and you can't. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean like rely on it for sure, Yeah,
I get what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're just having an organic conversation now, and that's one of the things that we talked about. Like, there is a script. There's specific questions I want to ask, but then there's a little bit of, hey, we're going to throw this in here because it's just life.
Yeah.
So, like, you could be in the middle of doing the jalapeno poppers, and all of a sudden your battery dies or something shorts out, and you're like, son of a... Yeah. And then you're going to be struggling for the next 3 hours, and like, you're not going to lack for content today.
That's true.
But then there could be other days when, you're planning on things, but then everything went super smooth, and it's like, well, that's going to make a boring-ass video.
Well, yeah, and that's when the gift of gab definitely comes in, and I'm not like, that's not lost on me, that I can talk a lot.
There you go.
It gets a little annoying when I got to edit myself talking that much, but it is what it is, right? I've had days where I just want to like, I'm just going to turn the camera on, I'm just going to talk, I'm not even going to cut. It's just going to be a talking head video. And maybe people would like that. I haven't got the balls yet to release something like that. Not in its entirety. I can't stand it. I'll throw it into the editor and it'll be like, shut the fuck. Cut. And now I'm down to 5 minutes as opposed to like 60. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's like that whole thing that falls into like, like seeing yourself in photos or seeing yourself on video, right? A lot of people have that like ick factor when it comes to that. You kind of have to get over that if you're going to do this.
So that leads me into the next question that I have written down here. It's, what inspires you? Like, you're going to have a routine day. You're going to have mundane days. So what inspires you to do something out of the box? To do something a little bit different?
To do something out of the box.
Yeah, because you're going to sit there and it's like, like if you have a day where everything goes super smooth, it's like the most you're going to have is I brushed my teeth, I made lunch, and I had a nap. Mm-hmm. Like, that's boring content. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do that. I've watched your channel long enough. I know that you don't do that. No. So what inspires you to actually go out there and do something else? Where do you find that creativity?
Honestly, I think at this point, because I've been doing it for as long as I'm doing it, it's my audience. And it's kind of, and that again, that itself is a double-edged sword, because I don't want to admit that. I don't want to ever admit that I'm at the mercy of my audience. But at the flip side of it, I'm very thankful for the audience. And to answer that question the most bluntly that I can, it's my audience. The fact that people get in there as soon as my video goes live, start commenting, watch through to the end. And I know the people that do, because they'll comment on whatever stupid nonsense I left at the last frame, whatever joke I made, they'll leave a comment and say, I saw that, right? It's those people that are engaged. And that I've been saying since the very, very beginning, that the internet is this like wild beast. It's so cool. It gets a lot of shade thrown on it, right? Oh, it's just for wanking and dark shit and evil crap and blah 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 blah. But if you put all of that bullshit aside and you actually look at it for what it can be in a positive way, it brings people together in a way that is so wholly unique to our, like, where we are in the scheme of time. Right? There was nothing like this before. It's probably only going to get bigger as we go forward. And it is so cool that it can bring people together. And that's why so many things took off during the pandemic, right? Because everybody was stuck at home. They were wanting connection with a lot of people. And now you remove that from it, it's still happening to this day. And I see that almost every day. My community grows. And there's these people getting this feedback. And it's like, well, if I don't do this today, XYZ person, might miss me or might not get a smile on their face. It's very humbling, all of the positive feedback that I get, because it's one thing to make somebody laugh. That's a huge thing. And I believe in what Robin Williams said once. He said, if I can make one person laugh, then I've done my job. Right? And I think that's a great way to sort of approach life, for sure. And I try to lean into that a lot. I love humor. I do believe that laughter can be the best medicine, not literally for your fucking severed finger, but stay with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For like lifting your spirits and putting you in a better place. But it goes, and I learned very quickly that it goes beyond that. It goes beyond just simply making people laugh. When I get comments, will be like, I was having a really bad day, you put a smile on my face. That's a completely different beast. That's somebody who was down that got brought up. And that's just, I'll never really understand that. I'm just very proud that I just touched my mic, so apologies for your post.
It's all good.
But I'll never really be able to understand it, but I'm so appreciative that I have the ability and I've been afforded the opportunity to do this. Because it really is that, I've put a lot of hard work into it, for sure, but there's a little bit of like luck and karma, I believe, that goes into this as well. So I've had days where I don't want to film, and I'm fortunate enough to be at a place now where I don't have to wake up every day. That helps my creativity, that helps my mental stability and my stress level and all of that stuff. Whatever I feel like I'm starting to lack behind, all I have to do is think about my audience and the fact that I want to connect with them. I want to give them something. And if it's just me and Penny playing in the fucking van for a few minutes, that's probably better than nothing. So, and I take that thought, that if all I need to do is like a little 5 minutes with me and Penny, it's probably going to roll into 45 minutes of something. And
there you go.
Right? That speaks to itself. So,
absolutely. So now, totally different topic. Well, totally adjacent. It's close. But anyway, so this lifestyle, do you find that it allows you to save money effectively? But then there's the other part. You have other unexpected costs that constantly come up.
Dixon.
Dixon.
Too many Dixons.
There's no such thing as too many.
Too many Dixons, especially when you live in a cargo van. That's one of the reasons I considered keeping the bus. I'll have a place to put all my flannel. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. A better person than me could save money. And I don't know how else to really say that.
Well, anything is possible, but we're not asking about what's possible. We're asking about you specifically. Like the audience, the people who are on live stream right now, they want to know about you.
They know everything there is to know about me. I've got a giant hickey on the back of my neck.
I did not do that.
If you're not on my Patreon, you won't understand. Anyway.
Smart.
With
all mercy.
Jeez. Okay, so me specifically, it's a loaded question, only because I know how I would love to answer it. I know that I could. I just haven't been doing that. Because I am a creature of habit, and when I see a moniker, a small amount of success, I almost like instantly reward myself. Hence, flannels and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually making money doing something I enjoy. Let's do this, and then I've got a bit of an addictive personality, and it runs away on me. So I'm trying to do better this chapter of my van life, for sure. That's why I say, somebody better at it than me could absolutely save money. But I also guess to bring it back to me, I have saved money because I'm not spending the same amount that I would have if I had a sticks and bricks for the last 3.5 years, right? So in that sense, I have, and I've been, and it's hard because like you say, saving money to me means squirreling it away and saving for something. But I've been able to do so much more, again, not to like toot my own horn, but I've been able to do so much more with my kiddo. And I feel like during these times when she's having zero experience being a dad before this, but she's young, I've been able to do this. Like, because I'm in a van, we can't just come home after daycare and hang out at home. That's not an option, right? This fucking curtain. I'm going to move 5 inches this way.
The blinds are they're terrible. They just get in the
blinds. That's, yeah, sorry. I keep calling it a curtain. It's clearly not.
Yeah, it's not a curtain either.
Anyway.
There are no curtains here. It's just blinds.
With my setup, with my rig, that's not an option. I can't pick her up and hang out at home. Like, that's just, it's not on the table. So again, like I said earlier, it was back in the day, and still to this day, but more infrequently, go over to my cousins, see family, have our evening. Great. By and large, though, we're going out. We're doing stuff. We're going to, well, in the nice weather, the fair weather months of the year, it's way easier. You can go to playgrounds, water parks, this, that, and the other thing. But you live here, you know, we have basically 8 months of bullshit. Yeah, cold weather, right? So we go other places. You can go, and I talked about this at the very beginning of the day. You go to malls, go to the library, but that only goes so far. Then all of a sudden you're going to places that cost money, indoor playgrounds, keeping the energy level up. I mean, if you've seen me, you know how much energy I have. You know, imagine that in a smaller package with a lot younger limbs. It's right. So my lifestyle has afforded me the ability financially to do that sort of thing with her. So it's been as great as it's been. It's also been a little bit of a detriment to saving for the future, but I spend a lot of time living in the moment with her. So, you know,
that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. It's not. I don't mean to say it like that at all.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I support you in doing it, because you're like what you're doing. You're saying, instead of saving up and having a nest egg of $1 million or whatever it is, instead of having that, you have all these memories that you're building. I'll trade that $1 million for those memories any day of the week.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And to bring it back a little bit more, like, just instead of just even having $1 million, let's look at it this way. Instead of saving to go to Disneyland, you know, like next year or whatever, well, we're doing mini adventures throughout the year. Right? Yeah. Like, so if I was to be saving for that, we would be doing nothing. We wouldn't be going camping. We wouldn't be going to these playgrounds. We wouldn't be having these experiences. And yeah, you can absolutely have experiences that don't cost anything for sure. But sometimes you just need to, especially as a single parent. That's just the way it frickin' is. Yeah. But that's the way I look at it. Yeah. So we're not going to have these big rewards, but the lifestyle has allowed us to have these little mini rewards almost every day of the week, which I think is really cool. And I don't take it for granted.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you're out.
Yeah.
Just one of those, if you want to take a break.
I'm good.
We got a fridge over here, so he's going to get himself another, we'll call it a beverage.
It's a water. It's fine.
Yeah. It's an adult beverage.
That's right.
But anyway, no, it's not a bad thing to take a minute out and then like do this, or if you want to check the comments.
I'm sure good.
I've seen comments pop up. I just have no idea what they are.
We're on my phone, everybody. I can't see but just right now. I don't know why. There we go. They're talking. They're good. They're just hanging out with us. It is what it is. It's not a typical live stream.
Fantastic.
We'll be back next week with a regular one.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
I might not. Who knows?
We'll see how this goes.
We'll see what happens with the Hickey and Marcy. And
oh my God.
Maybe they need room.
I just need room.
I'm teasing. I am. I'm teasing. So here's another question for you. What is the biggest misconception that people have about van life?
Oh, I love this question. Actually, this is out of all of the questions, because you sent these to me prior to this, wanted me to go over them, which was very courteous of you. Thank you for that. I also, as I told you, I didn't want to read them, or I didn't want to think about them too hard, because I wanted it to be, like you said, as organic as possible. This one, this one.
It's the cushion. Everybody relax.
Okay, just so we get back on the same page, because I just blab too much as I do. Say the question one more time for me.
What is the biggest misconception that people have about van life?
Okay, so there's two different sides to this. Okay, I think the obvious one is that it's super glamorous. You get into the van, Like, this is what everybody complains about, right? Because you see the Instagram reels and stuff. You're going to get your van. You're going to be on the beach at the coast. You're going to be waking up to beautiful views.
Well, you open your doors, you see the mountains every day.
Right? And I think that's the easy answer, right? Because that's not true. That's just simply not going to happen, right? And as I and many other people have showed, that van life is a way of surviving, and it's not glamorous. You are in the Walmart parking lot or the Cracker Barrel parking lot or on the side of a street in the industrial area or whatever works for you. If you can afford it, maybe you're at a campground a little bit more frequently for sure, but it's never going to be as glamorous as some people have made it out to be, right? And I think that is a common misconception. I think that's one of the reasons van life as a hashtag or a trend took off, because I don't know any of these people personally, so I'm not gonna specifically attack any one person or account or anything, but it's not hard to find stuff like that. And that's great if you want to inspire people. It's just when it starts becoming this like misnomer that that's what you're going to get if you make this decision to radically change your lifestyle, as we've been talking about, like, how did my life change? Yeah. Right? That's just not the way it's going to be for a lot of people. So that's the easy answer. And then the other side, it's still an easy answer, but I've lived this life, and again, putting it online, maybe it exposes me a little bit more, is that you're not a homeless bum. You're not a scummy person. You're not down on your luck in a certain sense. You know what I mean? Because people have this preconceived notion that because you live in a vehicle, you're homeless, you're problematic, you're a detriment to society, and a multitude of other things that they could call you, right?
Yeah,
and that's not it either. Of course, there's always going to be outliers, and there's always going to be people that are problematic.
Or you're going to have people at both ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
But the other 90% live in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, people need to know that that's by and large, and I've met a handful, probably more than a handful, of people living this lifestyle. And no, everybody's great. They're just doing what they can to get by. A lot of people are down on their luck, and they're not what a lot of people perceive them to be. And I think that is it's as I've spoken about since the beginning, society has a way of structuring us and making us think that we need to fit within a certain set of guidelines and rules. This is how you have to be. And it can get as rudimentary as, you're born, you go to school, you spend all your money, you're in debt, you get a house, you die, or whatever, right? But It's also the day-to-day stuff. Like, you can't be sleeping in a car, you need to go home. You can't be doing this, you need to do that, right? And I hate that, but we've all just accepted it for so long that it's a hard mold to break. And I think that's probably why a lot of the people that do go above and beyond to say, oh, you're homeless, you're scummy, you're a detriment, and all of that, they're probably stuck in that train of thought. So it's not necessarily that I blame them, but saying as much as we can is one thing, but then also leading by example. And then it's funny because, again, on the internet, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. You just start saying lead by example. It's like, oh, I can lead by example by not having my camping chairs and my awning deployed in the Walmart parking lot, not having my fire pit out in the Walmart parking lot. But then you're going to have other people being like, well, you're in the Walmart parking lot for too long, or whatever, right? So again, there's a sliding scale, and sure, but all you can do is what you have the ability to do. Set the best example you can, what works for you in your life, and be as respectful as you can be. That's it. And not try to worry about what everybody else is saying, right? But those are the two misconceptions, I think. It's not super effing glamorous, but it's not also the polar opposite of that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
By and large, people are working hard, trying to get their lives back on track. Maybe they never will get it back on track to where they have a house. Let's get serious. Look what's going on in Canada right now. But like, at least they're trying to just course correct their life and make themselves happy. Because it could be much worse, right? So the fact that you're in a van or you're in a car or you're in an RV or whatever, that's already, you're doing good. You're doing something right.
Well, exactly. Because like
good question. Sorry.
Well, it's one of those things. Like, you're going to get people on both sides of the spectrum. Like, some people think that you live next to the mountains like we do. Mm-hmm. Well, you're going to see mountain views every morning. It's like, you could, but how much is that going to cost you? Mm-hmm. Because you got to go to the national parks, so you got to spend money on the campground. You have to figure out where you're going to do all your groceries. And you live in an event, you don't have a lot of groceries. You really can't.
You physically can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Physically, you don't have the space. Like, I've got a much bigger rig. I've got a decent-sized fridge. Not a full-size fridge. Yep. But, I mean, I could live out of that thing for a week. Mm-hmm. No problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas with yours, 2-3 days. Yeah. I mean, so it limits what you can do.
I'm a weirdo. But anyways.
But still, you get the idea.
I do, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Like, which leads us into the next thing. So, like, I'm a huge fan of the phrase, you're houseless, not homeless. Because you have a home. Yep. Just because it's not your typical house, so bloody what?
Yeah.
Some people live in a boat. Go to Amsterdam. They live in boats all over the place. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, and I still, it's funny that you say it, you brought that specific phrase up, because still to this day, like on my video that went live yesterday, I still get comments like that. Oh, so you're homeless. You're
No.
homeless living in a truck. You're a bum that lives in a truck. And it's like, it's a great, like that whole houseless, not homeless it's a great mantra to have, but you really can't die on it, because the people that agree with you, they don't need to be convinced. And the people that don't agree with you, I don't know that they're going to be convinced either way. I think that's where we're at, honestly. I don't know that there's a lot of people teetering anymore. It's such a wide known thing, but the fact remains that the statement itself is great. Yes. And that fits into what I was saying about how the society says you need a house. Well, where's the affordable house? No. Where's your $1 million? Oh, here's the mortgage. You take it. Now you got your house. Now you belong.
Yeah, now you're in debt for the next 40 years.
Yeah. So yeah, no, a home can be wherever you are. I mean, that's why you got those cute little camper mats and stuff that says home is where we park it and all this. And it's true. And it's a great little sort of mantra to latch onto, that idea. Yeah. Houseless, not homeless is great. It's just, you can never use it as a tool to convince somebody who's stuck the other way.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to.
They're never going to. I don't think. We can try.
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
But it's a great saying.
It is, because it's applicable, but that's more my thing than anything else. It's what I believe, because just because the man doesn't have a sticks and bricks house, like, and somebody else might have a ship. So what? You might maybe live on a cruise line. Like people do. They live on cruise ships. I'm like, and
yeah. Wait, what?
You live.
How? I want to do that.
They do. It's only like $20,000, $30,000 a year. It's crazy.
Oh, only. Yeah, I know.
Only. Well, it's realistically, like, it's not free. Nothing's free.
Nothing is. No.
No, but it's one of those things. Like, some people looked at, and I got a kick at us when I first saw it. It was like, I couldn't help but to laugh. They said it was cheaper than a nursing home.
The cruise ship?
Yep. Cheaper than a nursing home. Nursing home, $45,000, $50,000 minimum. Cruise ship, 20.
Right, but are you getting the same like attention? You know what I mean? Like, depending on where you're at in your stage of retirement, you might need a little bit more hands-on.
You might.
Right? I don't know that the cruise staff.
Like, if you've got dementia, like,
it might not be
the lifestyle.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, there you go. Yeah, but if you're just like, oh, I want to retire because the kids moved out, and then I get it for sure.
Yeah, you're 70, and it's like, I'm perfectly functional. I'm 70, and I just want to. I'm not 70, by the way, but you wouldn't know from the gray. It's my scoreboard from Marcy, who's got her phone ringing now. But anyway, no, it's the idea is like, you can live wherever the hell you want. You can live however you want. Some people live in a small cabin off in the middle of the woods. Some people live downtown.
Why do we care so much?
Well, that's the thing. Like,
and I mean, when I say we, I mean the collective we. And I mean, obviously, I'm more focused in on the people that have a problem with it. The people that, you're not? Are they, like, my question is, and we're never going to get a proper answer, because I really don't know that you can have an actual conversation. That'd be an interesting video, though. To sit down with somebody who is so against anything other than the structured grid living.
Yep.
But at least they have to approach it with an open mind. That would be an interesting video. I don't know that you'd be able to find somebody that would be willing to do that with you. They would just want to sit down and argue with you, which I guess is kind of the point of the video.
To a point. I've actually done that.
You have?
Well, it's similar. Not with a house, but with the 9-to-5 job.
Oh, yeah.
I've had real discussions like...
Same category.
I'm trying to find a polite way to put it. There's no polite way to put it. Like, when I go to do the military. Okay, you go to do the military. That's not a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay, 7 to 3. It's not 7 to 3 when you're infantry.
Yeah.
It's not. You go special forces. It's not 9 to friggin' 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's 24/7. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. A bomb drops half a mile away. Guess what you're doing for the next several hours?
Right.
You're going to make sure that area is secure, and then other people are going to go in and make sure that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to move on. You're going to do something else. Like, you're not 9 to 5.
Yeah, but who's arguing with you that that's a problem?
Some people, I'm not going to throw somebody specific under the bus, but there have been people in my life that actually said, like, you need to work a Joe job. Like
instead of doing...
Like, you need to do the Joe job, which is a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You need to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. You need to go to your job at 9. You need to come home to your house, and that's where you can have your family, and then you can watch dinner. You watch TV and have dinner. You can do this.
Did you say watch dinner?
You can watch your dinner now.
I mean, you can.
When you go hunting, you watch your dinner all the time. It's like, that's what you call fast food, by the way.
Yeah, and I think those people, that's the same that are never going to be convinced otherwise. Like they're so. And my question is, I think the obvious excuse that we give them is the people who I guess are more open-minded about this, like to put a title on it, is that they're upset. Like they're upset and jealous that somebody else has found a way to do it outside of that. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily the case 100% of the time, but it definitely makes it easier for us to accept. Like, oh, you're just jealous because I figured out a way to do it.
Well, I liken it back to politics, and I'm not trying to get political here, but I'm just be honest. When you've got some people that are 100% for Trump, you've got other people that are 100% for Biden.
Yeah.
Just as an example. Mm-hmm. And why? Why are you for Trump? I think the guy's a dirtbag. I mean, I really don't like him. Yeah. But given the opposition, which was Kamala Harris, like between the two, I mean, I'm leaning heavily the one way, not the other. Yeah. But then you've got other people, like just as an example, somebody that says Kamala's great. Okay, why? And they can't give you 3 reasons. They'll just rip you apart. You're a
and I think that's the problem, right? Like I can't speak to politics on any level. I try to stay out of it. But what I have noticed is just the fact that conversation can't exist.
Exactly.
What I've noticed in my live streams and stuff is like, as anybody mentions it, somebody else will just say, no politics, please. And that, by and large, that's probably the best way to approach it because like people use it as an escape. I think it's kind of sad that it needs to be escaped, but it needs to be escaped because there's no middle ground. Not for a lot of, some people you can, don't get me wrong. Some people you can sit down with and still have conversations with. But by and large, on a grand scale, people are not interested on both sides, no matter what it is they're supporting or what it is they believe in. They're not open to discussion because nobody wants to be thought of as wrong. So if either they're scared or they're going to go on the offensive and scare somebody else. Like that's how I look at it. Like it's just made it uncomfortable. It's kind of
same
sad.
thing. Same thing when it comes to living in a house or not living in a house. Like they're
that's what I was going to say.
To think the one way. It's like this is the only way. Yeah. I can't be wrong. This is the only way.
I don't know what it was that made people so stubborn on almost all fronts, but the vast majority of people, it doesn't matter whether it's politics or the way you live your life. There's more people that are stuck in their ways and unwilling to give an inch than the people that are willing to have an open discussion about it, right?
Exactly.
And it's kind of it's a really sad time in our lives. That's why I believe in trying to focus on the positive. Like, because you're never going to be able to just be 100% positive, but it means more to me to be like I said, I got zero interest in trying to convince you to think another way. That's another reason why I kind of like teeter back. I'm like, I'm never going to convince you that van life is acceptable. It's like, it's fine for me. Why do I care whether you like it or not? Like, a part of my muggle brain will always be a little pissed off that somebody's like, you're homeless. But at the end of the day, I have to just ignore it and be like, it doesn't matter what you think. Because you're not interested in actually having a conversation. You just want to argue for the sake of arguing. And
exactly. That's my favorite phrase when it comes to stuff like you don't work 9 to 5, you don't have a regular job, you're not doing it. It's like, I haven't had a regular job in years. Yeah. Like, and? Like, that's my honest answer to everything is like, and?
I know. Why does it matter?
But you don't work 9 to 5. Like,
so?
And?
Yeah.
Like, how does that affect your day? Am I not paying enough taxes?
It rubs somebody the wrong way, and it's flabbergasting to me.
Well, it is, and it's like same thing.
If I had to like put out a thought, it's to go back to the internet. How I said earlier, and I still believe it, that the internet is a great tool to bring people together. Unfortunately, it's also a great tool to drive people apart because now everybody's got an opinion, and it's, you know what I mean? Everybody's got a soapbox, and that's become detrimental. That's the side of the internet has become detrimental. Not everybody needed a voice. It's great to be able. That's why I've only ever been interested in entertaining people, make them laugh. This is me. This is my life. No agenda. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You want to watch it, you watch it. You don't, that's fine. But the people that get out there and they get mad and they get angry and they start screaming, and then those people influence other people. If that person can act like an asshole, I can act like one. That's just how I kind of view it. And it's like, not everybody needed that. Because I don't remember any of this shit existing in the 90s when I was growing up. Maybe I was an ignorant kid. But I really don't think so, because we always had the news on and shit and world events in the house. And there was none of this crap going on in the world when the internet was in its infancy. You give everybody a voice, everybody's going to have something to say. Because anonymity goes a long way.
It does.
Yeah.
We've gotten wildly off topic, but this is still good.
What happened?
It's still good. I like it because we're having an honest conversation.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is when it comes to doing my channel. I had my first hater the other day. By the way, Ian, you're a fucking legend. Love you. Anyway, what ended up happening? I got my
I don't think he's still there.
first troll, first hater. Like, absolutely, I thought it was hilarious. And like, okay, I'm willing to have a conversation with you.
Oh, go, don't.
They did 100%. They did a 180, and it was like, okay,
That, you got lucky then. I've had, like, you actually had a conversation, and then he's like, did he apologize kind of thing? Is that what you mean by 180?
no. What had happened was I said, like, I'm open to having a conversation with you. You think I'm fake? Okay, let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
I'm doing me. I don't really give a rat's ass whether you believe me or not.
You can't say that online, because as soon as you say that, they think you do. I'm just saying. It's so annoying. Go ahead.
Well, it is, but I mean, that was the thing. It was like, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm doing. It's one of the things that I respect about you and your channel, and I really do. And I'm not just blowing sunshine up your ass. I mean it. So when you're doing your channel, you're doing it because this is my life.
Yeah.
This is how I'm living it.
Mm-hmm.
Your opinion's like, yeah, and it's a grain of sand out on the ocean. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. You mean nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is still how I'm living my life.
Yeah.
It's like you're putting your hand out there, and I'm going to turn the river back by putting my hand in. It's like, yeah, that. Good luck on that one, kitten.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to get you real far.
Yeah. But so what was the 180 that happened with this guy?
What it was that happened was Ian actually jumped in and said, you know, you're a ray of sunshine, aren't you? And it's like, I happen to know the man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a decent person. And the person came back that gave me the hate comment, came back and said, actually, I do know him. He is not bad. It's like, he's called me fake. Now you're telling me I'm not bad. Like,
So it's interesting. Okay. So if you're interested in my opinion on this.
but of course.
Okay.
That's the whole point.
Right. So I think obviously I've seen a lot more of that. I get a lot more hate now than I did back to the beginning.
Oh, for sure.
And every once in a while, we will always have that inkling to engage, no matter what. Because as much as we say, "Oh, I don't care," it doesn't matter, and that's true. But like I said, as soon as you say that out loud, somebody's going to latch on and be like, "Well, if you actually didn't, then you wouldn't say it." But we're humans. We're always seeking approval, no matter what we're doing. So
Yeah.
as much as it might not bother us to this, we're not going to lose sleep over it. I would still be like that. Why'd that person say that? Why? What? I try to put myself out there. Who is this person? Why would they say that? And that's what leads me to want to comment and reply back. What I've noticed by and large, I would say 99% of the time, I'll respond to one of these like hate comments and I don't get anything back. They just wanted to drop a nugget of bullshit, and then they think they were heard. And if I reply, they probably feel justified. So it's worse if I reply. But I did have one moment where a guy lashed out. I don't remember what it was at this point. This was probably about a year ago, and he had a pretty nasty comment about whatever the hell the video was about. And I engaged with him, and we had a conversation, and we had a couple back and forth, and slowly through the thread you could see it sort of diffuse. And he came back the next morning with another reply, and he said, "Matthew, I'm sorry, I was having a bad day." And he started explaining. I was like, CRA and my tax, and he got all these reasons. I'm like, "I would have had a bad day too, sir." And he apologized. And so it's every time I get a bad comment, which I don't think is necessarily earned. I know I can rub people the wrong way. I kind of assume that maybe they're having a bad day. That's definitely not going to be the case all the time. But that was one moment for me. It was the only time it ever happened that I ever had anybody reverse and apologize and be like, "Yeah, this is why." And I understood them as a person. And again, that takes me back to the internet connecting people.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in like flipping trolls. I'm not in that business. But it was very interesting for me that
It is
happened.
interesting. You see, what's interesting is that actually leads us into the next question.
Oh, okay.
Because the next question was about how do you stay connected with your family, with your friends, with the larger community when you're living, let's call it for what it is, it's a nomadic lifestyle. Because you could be parking in Banff.
Yeah.
You could go up to Jasper for the night. You could go wherever you want within a 2-3 hour distance.
Yep.
You can go all over the place. So how do you stay connected with everybody?
So, well, I mean, as I've shown on my channel, for me, family's everything. Always has been, always will be. I've gone through the ringer. I'm still sharing stories of my family life that are slowly revealing themselves over this next year. But family is everything to me. I value it above a lot of other things. And so it was always very important for my daughter to remain in her grandparents' lives. And that the van life itself is a reason that can happen. So we talked earlier about how you said you had options. You could have gotten a bachelor pad or something. You didn't have to get a van. And I completely glossed over the idea that, yes, I could have done that. I would have been working. I would have been paying all this money for rent. And I still would have had my daughter as frequently as I did, but it wouldn't have led to X, Y, Z. But it also would have prevented me from being able to take her out there.
Yep.
And seeing them. Yeah, sure, they could come visit, but if I'm in a bachelor pad, who the hell wants to be there? Or whatever, you know what I mean?
100%.
So the van life itself is a reason for me to remain connected with them even more. I don't blame them at all for abandoning me completely and taking off for different profits. I'm fine with it. No, I'm just kidding. It was always the way it was going to be. It just happened at a weird time. So, but it's worked out really well for that. The same goes for my family here. Obviously, I spoke about my cousin, right? Actually, ended up bringing us closer. My community, again, I am an introvert. I don't, by and large, enjoy meeting people that much. It is not that I don't enjoy it. I shouldn't say that. It's just that it's exhausting and it's draining on me, right? I do like my alone time, my downtime, and because I share so much in my videos, I always feel like I just want to be left alone at the end of the day. But again, I'm allowed to remain connected with them through the community, either through Patreon, one of the biggest supporters of what I'm doing to this date, and then also into the YouTube comments, right? I do my camping trip meetup. I would say every summer. I've done it twice. We'll see if it happens this year. I don't know.
Totally should.
Right? Myself, now that I've got this like weird status of quasi-celebrityism or whatever, I would like to put out there and have like little meetups starting in the city that I'm in primarily. That would be fun. That's a
As you do.
tough pill for me to swallow, right? Just because I get stressed out and get in my head about it. But I did it once. I did it down at Craze Outdoors, the local family-owned shop here. That was fun, so that kind of gave me the inkling to do it again. And that's one thing I've been a big believer of since the beginning as well, is that putting myself out there and going out of my comfort zone, by and large, results in good things. And I haven't done that since I started my van life and had it end negatively. I speak about how what helped my channel take off was going to a van life meetup with Chrome from Van City Van Life. When my van was, I don't know, I had the bed and a couple counters in it. I went down there and I met some people. I met him who I'd been following for years, and he was doing van tours. And like, it took a lot. I was just like, I'm not gonna go. No, fine. I'll just sit here in the alley. I'll just keep building my van. It's fine. But then I like forced myself to do it. And that was out of my comfort zone. It might not seem like it, but if you've seen the video, I probably come across as pretty confident. I was shitting my pants, but that's where it kind of started, because it's a big thing. Go outside your comfort zone. And I've tried to do that. I've tried to live like that as much as I can. And that goes all the way to my very first Patreon meetup, meeting all of these amazing people in person. Because it's one thing for people to just support you from afar.
Yeah.
It's another thing to meet them face to face and be like, thanks for giving me your money. But you got to take that aspect out of it, because it's not just that. It's actual people that truly do believe in what you're doing and find you. Either they simply find you entertaining, attractive, or, they believe in what you believe. Just kidding.
No, he's not kidding. She totally had a crush on him for a while. It's hilarious. No, but
it's important to connect with those people, because one thing we're missing a lot these days is common ground. And I find it very valuable to have common ground with people, right? As much as it might make me uncomfortable to meet people, that's a more positive thing, right? So,
well, I would argue, going back to the question we asked earlier.
How dare you argue?
Well, absolutely. So what you do is we were asking, like, how do you engage with your community, with your family, with your friends? And that's what we're asking now. Like, how do you do this? Like, I would argue that you're engaging more with your community now than you did before.
Oh, yeah.
And more because you're living in a van, you're engaging with your community more because of that. Because if you have a home... When
you say community, do you mean like community, like the literal community around me too?
Yeah.
Yo, okay.
Everything.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Because like you've got the community online, like there are people watching. I have no idea. I can't see anything on there, but we have people watching. We're hoping. But we have people that are there, so they're people supporting you. People are doing things.
But to bring it back more to the personal community, yes, let's talk about that too. Because again, I started doing this, and whether it was via van life or just the fact that I have this like online presence, look at Craze, right? Look at the family that I met there that is a locally owned.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have met them.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. You wouldn't have met them if it wasn't for van life.
That's true.
How often would you go down to Fish Creek? Just as an example, how often would you do that if it wasn't for van life?
Yep.
How often would you take your daughter out and do things like the
I hope I would
Christmas
do it, but...
train?
Well, okay,
what are the odds?
Yeah, well, we can't attribute van life to the Christmas train. We have to attribute that to my cousin because she's a rock star. But yes, I know what you mean. Y'all just wouldn't have been exposed to it in that sense. It would have been more of a personal thing. But yes, it's Craze. It's Revita. It's all of these. It's the UPS store, for God's sakes, and the great people that work there. Yeah. Just through the fact that this is my life and I'm sharing it with people, and everybody else is being connected. It is very cool. So it's just, I don't know, being me. Moving on.
Well, it's one of those things. So Okay, so this leads us into the next question.
That's
I like how
great. Look how this works.
It's almost like it was engineered to do this.
It's like a river. Sorry.
It really is. So the next question is like, so what exactly has van life taught you about you? What have you learned about yourself? Would be another way to put it.
Well, okay, the obvious one there is to go outside your comfort zone. Like that, I won't dwell on that anymore. But doing that and putting myself out there and going outside my comfort zone has led to nothing but good things. I don't know that I would have done that if I hadn't done the van life. It might be, well, why couldn't you just have done that without being in a van? Probably because I was in an awkward position, physically and literally. I went from what we all have done, the sticks and bricks, either renting or living with your parents or your family or whatever, to I'm in a Walmart parking lot in a tin can that I built. Right? So that right there is awkward for sure. Say the question again. I'm getting off track.
No, you're on track.
I know, but
It's what van life has taught you about you.
about me. Yeah. So everything I just said about that, but also that I can withstand a lot more than I thought. I mean, I kind of thought I always could. I got this ego about myself, like, oh, I could do that, no problem. But now that I've proven it to myself, that I'm totally fine going into Walmart at 5 minutes to close and using the washroom, and brushing my teeth in this tiny thing, driving somewhere else first thing in the morning to get a coffee, and not having all of these conveniences, and being a little bit more put upon, but I did it to myself, so I'm not asking for any sympathy. I've learned that I can do that. I can be okay with it. And that kind of goes back to one of those questions like that I was getting at the beginning. Where are you going? The bathroom's a big thing. People, and I get it. Everybody gets it. Everybody poops. So we all got to weigh, well, how is that going to be comfortable? It's like, fine, but you go and you will find a way, as long as that way is not outside in the Walmart parking lot. You know what I mean? Like that I can withstand this, that I can do this. Like I said in my last video, it will always be good enough for me. And it taught me that if I can do this, I don't really have to be scared of anything else, because I'm not necessarily at my lowest low, because I feel like I've got the fortitude to always pick myself up by the bootstraps, so to speak. But experiencing this for 3 years has taught me that I can withstand way more than I was giving myself credit for, because there was a lot of time when I was in sticks and bricks felt like I was being crushed by debt. Like if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have gotten out from underneath that a lot faster, because I would have stopped paying the rent. But it's almost like the fear of living a different way keeps you sequestered underneath that, and that pressing amount of money.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. But even back then, it was like $1,100 a month. It was way cheaper than it is now, right? But by and large, it was still this. Like if I could have not had that and just gone and lived in a vehicle, and because I knew I could, that would have been priceless to have. So now as most people know, I'm staring down the barrel of going back to sticks and bricks. This is what I want for myself and my daughter. I'm not scared of failing. I've removed that fear. Like there's no, like if I go and all of a sudden I can't make it, cool, I'll go back in the van. What? Like,
what are you going to do to me?
There's not, exactly. It's almost like I've bulletproofed my way to a certain extent. Bulletproofed myself to a certain extent, right? So I love that. And it's there's a quote I use, and I kind of want to use it again. I'm going to paraphrase it because Jim Carrey said it. It's like, if you're not willing to live your life for 1 year at your lowest, then you don't deserve the life you dream of, or something like that. And I think there's a lot. That's not it at all. It's a total rough paraphrase. It's a great quote.
I get what you're talking about, though.
Right? But just like, you got to be willing to live a certain way and to achieve your goals, sort of thing, right? I think there's a lot of value in that. So
yeah, another way to put that is, if you're not willing to live on Kraft Dinner and Top Ramen for 6 months, what makes you think you deserve the $10,000 a month job?
Yeah.
Like if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, whatever the sacrifice is, if you're not willing to make the sacrifice now to get where you want to be, then what makes you think you deserve to be there?
Yeah.
So like you did it. You did bulletproof yourself, and I think that's absolutely outrageous. I think it's great.
Thanks.
We should be outrageous. Why should we go to the status quo?
Well, that's just it. It all goes back. It all like feeds into itself, right? It all does. When you really take a step back and think about it, it all makes sense. And it's just like, yeah, we spend so much time being part of the status quo and being told we need to be this way. That's how we start to feel vulnerable and like we have to be part of this, or our value is going to go down, or the worst case scenario is we're just going to fade out into non-existence, right? Nobody's going to remember us, or we're going to die, or whatever the like.
Yeah, in 100 years
worst
from now,
thing.
nobody's going to remember you.
Exactly, right? It doesn't matter. Like, you gotta. Well, there was a shift, but yes, I know what you mean by that, right? Like, live now the way you want to live it.
So this is going to tie in, and this is a really good quote that I'm sure Matthew's really going to enjoy. If you want the fruit, you got to go out on the limb.
Oh my God, that's great.
It's true. You want the fruit. You can't just stay there at the trunk of the tree where it's nice and safe. You got to go out on a limb. Yeah. It's risky. Like, and how do you think you get the reward? You have to go out on a limb. Now, I'm looking at the camera because I'm seeing there's a little bit of popping up here. This is great. I'm going to turn the heat up because for whatever ironic reason, it's gotten cold out.
It's like it's winter or something.
It's almost like the sun went away and the heat went with it.
Yeah, right.
Terrible. So anyway, no, the idea is like we're doing this sort of thing and you've got a fantastic audience that is supporting you. And like, okay, so how has that audience shifted the way that you make your videos?
Ooh, right. I didn't remember seeing this question. How has the audience shifted the way I make my videos?
I phrased it differently than the question, but you get the idea.
No, that's 100%. Not, okay. They've definitely spoken to what they like. And as many, like, let's call a spade a spade. On the world of YouTube, shorter is better.
Yeah.
This is the assumption a lot of people have. I am in a very unique bubble, I would think, where I can put out hour-long videos that do very, very well. And that happens, I can do that every day. I did that in the month of October of 2024. I put out an hour-long video Monday through Friday, almost for the entire month, and people watched. That's crazy. But it's because I spent a very, very long time going back and forth with the community, asking what they wanted, and then testing the waters on both sides, on both fronts. Because I will always have people say, your videos are too long, I want them shorter, I got more important shit to do. And I will always be the believer of, then go do your shit. Okay? Because it's all attention span. And again, it all leads into, we want it now. We need immediate satisfaction, immediate gratification, and we want it zippy, right? TikTok, thank you very much for that stuff. But as a storyteller, I don't know that I should really say that I am a storyteller, but I would like to be, and I try to be one. I'm very bad at telling short stories. I've tried it, and the audience that shows up still showed up, but then you start looking at the other side of that spectrum, which is the financial side of things. And it makes no sense for me to put that amount of work into a short video. I will drown. So I may as well put the effort in, give the majority of the audience what they want, which is apparently more time watching my dumb ass, and almost everybody's happier, right? Right? And people can come and go and pause and, you watch some of the video now, come back, watch it later. And I don't take that for granted. I'm very thankful. I would love to make shorter videos. Who doesn't want to work less? That would be fantastic. I look at some YouTube channels where they put out one 20-minute video a week, million views. That would be great. That's not where I'm at. And that's fine because I enjoy talking. I don't know if I say that I would like to be able to do that. I don't know that I ever would be able to. I think I enjoy the process too much. I don't know what I would do with all of the downtime. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So listening to my audience that way and actually structuring the way my videos are, that's about the most direct effect the audience has had. Because other than that, like we've been talking about, I just want to make what I want to make and be who I am and let them, and if you want to watch, great. If you don't, don't. And that's an important attitude to have for sure. It's going to upset some people. Like I say, you're never going to make everybody happy. There's a reason I say that at the end of every video right now. You can't make everybody happy. You never will. Don't die trying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the most feedback I've ever taken from my audience, and we're in a good place right now. So
here's an interesting thing. Being an audience member of his, now we're going to get some really interesting feedback.
Oh, God.
Because I never subscribed to anybody like on their Patreon. Never did that before.
Yeah.
Really couldn't care less. And I'll tell you what triggered that in a minute. But I never did that before. I rarely ever give feedback on a video. Rarely.
You mean like in the comments on YouTube?
Absolutely. Yeah. Rarely do I ever do that. I've done it probably 6 or 8 times. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that. It's because you're not interacting with me. You're just making a video that I find fun.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't care less who or what I am.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you've got an audience of, say, 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Do you really care about 10,001? Like, is that one individual really important? Like, in the grand scheme of things, yes, they are important to have every one individual. Yes. But at the same time, do you really care if I post a comment on there? Is that really going to shape your day?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, it's true.
So my whole philosophy was, you don't care about me. Great. You have life. Go live it. You don't care about me. And I'm okay with that. But that was my thing. Like, you genuinely don't care about me. So what I did when I went to your Patreon, what did it? You were actually the video, and I laughed at it because I saw you go into your van. I knew what you were doing, and I was like, son of a... I mean, that close. That close! What had happened, went into Walmart, saw your van sitting out here with Grace behind it, went into Walmart, and was like, he's in here somewhere. I know he's in here. I know he's in here somewhere.
You're hunting me down in Walmart?
No, it wasn't actually. We happened to be in Walmart anyway. We had to go. I think it was like we had to go to IKEA or something. We happened to be in Walmart. It was like, Matt's here. We got to go in. It's got to be done. We got to go to Walmart anyway. Screw it. We're going into this one. So we did. Went into the Walmart. Of course, can't find you. It's like, so I'm just wandering around for like 20 minutes doing what we had to do. But it was always out of the corner of my eye. I was like, was that Matt down there?
Oh, fuck.
Was he down that hallway? No, is he down that hallway? Is he down this aisle over here? And like, couldn't find you anywhere. It was like, yeah, I don't meet him. I don't meet him. Like, it's not going to make or break my day. Sure as hell isn't going to make or break his day.
Yeah.
So I figured, like, whatever. Came outside. I swear I saw you in your van pulling the curtain across.
No night. No more.
And when I found out what I was watching a couple of weeks later, I see the video where you had just been in the back, at the back of the van, not in the back, at the back.
Yeah, yeah.
You got your hitch, you brought it in, and you were changing the washers out on the hitch. I was like, I drove past you while you were doing that.
So what? Okay. So what is it? I'm gonna flip it for a second. Let's flip the script for a second.
I'm in.
So what is it that makes you want to be like, I want to go inside and see if I can find him? Because I get the like saran wrap approach to like, oh, he's a guy I watch on the computer.
Yeah.
But what's that? Anybody can do that.
Yep.
Right? So what is it that gets you in that mood? Because you're not the only one. I hear this a lot, right? People get excited because they see me. I mean, it's just me.
Well, this is going to tie into the next question, which is really interesting. So what happened was, for me, let's not worry about that. Seriously, like, let's be honest. Let's be real. We're doing this live, so let's cut the shit and let's be honest. So what happened for me, the reason why is because when I was watching Chrome's video, and I missed you by, honestly, maybe an hour. Yeah. Maybe an hour after he was done with those, I went over there and I was...
Oh, you mean at his meetup?
Yeah, at his meetup. Gotcha. When he was here and you were doing the first time you were doing the van tour.
Right.
I was there maybe an hour after you, and what had happened was I didn't know that. Then it was a little while later, I'm looking at Chrome's channel, it's like, oh yeah, there's somebody from Calgary. Wait a minute, I don't know that guy. And it's like 2 or 3 people from Calgary, and it was like, I'm interested. So I started watching different channels, and like, this one I can relate to, this one not so much. So okay, I don't watch that much. I like this one, I can relate to it. So I watched it. And it was you that you were from Calgary, I can relate to you. And I was like, okay, let's see what else he's doing. Like, you're struggling, you're building your van, you're going through like, how the hell do I do this? Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like, yeah, and that's how I live my life. Like, I don't know what I'm doing either. And I was going through a lot of stuff in my life at the time, and it was, a lot of things were very difficult for me, but I found someone that I could actually relate to. It's like, you're sitting back, it's like, I live in my van. I work in when you were by the Chinook Mall, and you were working in the shop there, and you were like, I could just go outside and have lunch. Yeah. In my tiny home. Like, how convenient is this? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm watching my life and my relationship tanking. I'm watching it tank. And I was like, there's going to come a time where I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I mean, I really don't know what I'm going to survive. Yeah. I'm going to rebuild my life. I've done it repeatedly, which is not a good thing. But I've done it repeatedly, to be fair.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, like, I can rebuild my life. I can do that. That part's okay. But I was thinking, like, wait a minute, like, Chrome did it. This guy from Calgary did it. And then we've got Bruce Van Life Jr. Like, I'm watching him.
My name's Matthew.
Well, I know that.
This guy from Calgary.
Yeah, this guy from Calgary. Just some random guy. At the time, you were a random guy.
That's fair.
But no, it's one of those things where, in all fairness, like, that's what was going on. And I started thinking, like, you know what? If this guy can do it, and I can see you're crapping your pants and flying literally by the seat of your pants, and like, yeah, I could do that. And it's like, I'm watching Chrome. And the reason why I got turned on to Chrome in the first place, just random video where he found somebody in a truck camper. Yeah. that was off in the middle of nowhere, and he decided to give him some food and help him out because he thought he was stuck there.
Yeah.
Turns out the man actually was stuck, so Crumb gave him a bunch of food. And then that was it. And saw the video and was like, all right, that got my attention. What else has he got?
Yeah.
And I started watching videos, and I watched all of the videos. And then when I saw you, I went back. I watched all of the videos, and I've been watching since.
Thank you.
Well, it's one of those things.
No, and I mean that. Every time somebody says I went back and started from the beginning, I love that. Because you got to understand, as somebody who's been creating content for that long, I can still go back and I can look at those early videos, and they've got like maybe 2,000-3,000 views, right? Or less on the time. So when I hear somebody say that, that's awesome, because you're just watching my work. Because like the work has gotten better, but the passion was always the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense because you were interested in doing this lifestyle, and it's like, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, well, I failed trying.
We'll figure that out too. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was my thing. It's like, I would rather I aim here and I hit here. It's a hell of a lot better than I aimed here and I hit it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll aim up here all day long, and if I fail, I still went higher than if I could have succeeded small.
Yeah.
It's like, screw you, I'm aiming big.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't date the supermodel, like, and I get a wonderful person in my life anyway. Like, so I aimed high, I hit a little bit lower. Like, and I didn't aim for a 3 and got a 2. Aim for a 10, get a 7. Like, whatever, it works. I'm not calling you a 7. Relax.
Oh my God.
Thank you for calling.
She's a screaming 10 if you ever wanted to know. Ah! See? Screaming 10. There you go. So now here's the poignant question now, because we talked about you being an introvert and how things actually work for you. If I had another beer, I would offer you.
Oh, no, I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm good.
Is there anything left in here?
Oh, no, I'll be fine with this.
We have nothing, apparently.
We have nothing. He drank it all.
It's gone.
It's gone.
So anyway, so the idea is, like, do you find that doing the live streams, because you're always very outgoing. So when it comes to your personal life, like, you get drained, you get tired, I'm flipping done. You hit the little button, you're done. Live stream, not so much. So do you find a live stream to be energizing, or do you find it to be draining?
Both.
So the big question is, what are you going to do after this? Like, for me,
I'm going to go have a shower and go to bed.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, for me personally, when I was not that long ago, where this would be so draining for me, it's like, I go home, I get underneath my weighted blanket, I stay there for the next 2 days, the world, I'm done.
Yeah. This isn't, okay, so yeah, it's both. Anyways, to answer your question, it's both. Like, am I energized or am I drained? When I do my live streams, it's both. My apologies, compliments to the chef. But if you watch my live streams, which I know you have, but if anybody else, if they watch them, we hit the ground running, we start hard more often than not. I'm saying hi to everybody, and I get energized, 100%.
Yep.
Every time that happens, right before I hit go live, I'm like, fuck. Not literally, but there's always this, even now that I've got however many I have under my belt, it's still just like, okay, all right, fine. But then I'm in it. A switch flips, I'm in it, I'm talking to everybody. And as it goes on, of course, I get exhausted. 100%. It also depends on where the audience is that night. Live streams are such a unique beast, and I think that's why I'm attracted to them, because there is a certain level of unpredictability to them. By and large, we're all going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about drinking, where we're from, what we like, what upgrades we're going to do, and there's going to be random stuff happen here and there. I really enjoy them. I'd love to do them more frequently than I do, but they exhaust me. Because I don't know when to stop. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find a live stream under an hour on my channel. I think there's a couple, but you'll also find one that went on for 10 hours, right? I sat in my van on St. Patrick's Day, 2022, and I did 10 hours talking to the community. I can't tell you what the hell we talked about, because there's always alcohol involved, because I enjoy me a little drinky poo, like Mr. Leahy would say. And I enjoy that part of the community because it's more one-on-one. That's why, again, it feeds into the, my videos are long, my live streams are long. You think my videos are long? You should see my live streams. You know, I can't stop because everybody's so engaging. Everybody's asking questions. And they're not just saying, Matt, what van did you buy and what fucking fan did you install? Or how's your daughter? How's Lindsay? What's Amber up to? What are your mom and dad doing? Tell Byron we say hi. Like, there's a level of interconnectivity from what I've shared. And people, I think, well, the ones that are around all the time, they genuinely care. They're genuinely attached, right? And now we've gotten to this point where there will always be those people are there, but then there's also all of these newcomers that are coming in, and it's this constant ebb and flow. And then of course I do that for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. By the end of it, I'm probably a little liquored and looking forward to just being like, I'll see you tomorrow next one. Thank you. Be positive. Good night. And then I swear to God, probably 85% of the time I not pass out, but it's bedtime.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like I'm done. I will look at my numbers because I'm human. I'll look at the numbers, see how the live stream did, and I go to bed. I'll wake up the next morning and I go on with my day. There's probably 15% where I've been like, all right, let's have some more drinks and maybe get some food. You know what I mean? But by and large, it's both, right? I get energized because I love it so much. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. But by the end, so to go back to how will I feel after this is a little different. This is one-on-one. It's still draining. And I guess that goes into, we didn't really define like introvert, extrovert.
Ish one-on-one?
Ish. Well, yeah. Yeah, but this is different too, right? Like Patreon's here, but I'm not interacting with them. So it's more just like fringe benefit, darling.
It's bonus content.
That's right.
Enjoy.
That's right. But it's one-on-one. It's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. I've also talked about for the last 2 years when I did my Patreon camping trips, I usually do a Fallout video, right? The first year, I think Amber and I went for pizza. She made my bed and I went to sleep right here. Basically in this exact spot. And then last year, I actually got myself a hotel because I was like, no. And that's because it was a long weekend. So there was an extra day tacked on. Lovely time. Love it. That's why I will probably continue to do my Patreon meetup. But you take this right now and multiply it by 10 or 20.
Yeah.
And as great as it is, all these people are awesome. And the second year, I don't want to say that the second year was better than the first year, because the first year was new for me and everyone, whereas the second year was just new for the people that weren't there the first year. Whereas I knew what to expect, the people that were returning knew what to expect, and it was a little bit more laid back. But I'm me. I'm always going to, and since I am the quote unquote host, I'm always going to be on as much as I can be. And so it's draining. But so I'm like, I'm going to treat myself. And I got a hotel room and I had a bath and went to bed and it was glorious.
Oh, there you go.
That's it. Like, I don't know. That's just what it is.
See, that's where I wouldn't be far different. I really wouldn't. Just one of those things.
But anyways, yeah, it goes back to the fact that for those that don't know, introvert, extrovert, it just means where you sort of get energized from. So I definitely fall in the middle. But by and large, an extroverted person who enjoys people is going to become exhausted if they have to sit at home and do nothing. Right? Their energy levels are going to drop. They're going to be miserable. They're going to want to go to bed. That's why they're always like, let's go. What are we going to do tonight? Let's go. Let's get out there. Let's meet people. Let's talk to people. I want to meet you. What did you do? Where are you from? How old were you when that happened to you? Where's your dad? Woo! Whereas an introvert, I can do that. But as soon as we're done talking, I'm going to be fucking horizontal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to recharge by being by myself. For me, that's editing my videos. It's watching a movie. It's playing my Nintendo. It's just tuning the world out. I do that. Then I'm good to go again. It's not about hating people or loving people, which is a common misconception, right? That's not what it is.
It's just your social battery.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a social battery. Like, it's
the only reason I am emphatically saying that is because for a long time, that's how I viewed it. I was like, oh, I'm an introvert. I hate people. You're an extrovert. You love people. Fuck you. We're not going to get along. Right. But then when I learned that that's not the way it is, it made so much more sense to me. And I was able to prioritize my time better.
Yeah. Well, then when you get live streams, you're going to get somebody that just peppers them in the comments. I don't know who would do that, but you can look up my channel. It's like all the time. I just pepper him like crazy. But I mean, there are times when I've watched your channel, it's like he's fading fast. Mm-hmm. Like, just leave him alone. I stop commenting. I don't do anything. It's like he's fading.
You mean the live stream?
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
I'll watch it in the live stream and it's like, nope, he's fading. And it'll be like the last 20, 30 minutes, like he's done.
Yeah.
It's like, I recognize that, and it's like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to pepper him with anything. He's done. Then the other times, like, oh, you little son of a, like, I'll go right after.
I do what I can to keep up with everybody, yes.
But it's one of those things, like the one time that I parked here and I was teasing, like, that was not planned.
Yeah.
I was coming down here just to meet with Ian.
Yeah.
And he just happened to be next to you, and it was hilarious. We had the vans all lined up, and it was fun. This is for Patreon. But with the vans were all lined up, it was like a small, medium, and large. It was hilarious. Because we had my big bus, which is about twice the size of Ian's bus, which is about twice the size of Matt's van. So
it's not the size that matters, it's what you do with it.
That's right.
But anyways. You were saying,
It
yes.
doesn't matter what size rig you're going into, as long as the tunnel's small, it's good.
What the fuck?
The smaller the tunnel, the better.
Wow. Next question. Did that lead into the next question?
Yeah,
Oh
ironically.
yeah. Ironically, tunnels and size. Here we go. What's your favorite ice cream? No, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna edit a lot of this out, by the way,
Wow.
just so that you know. We're gonna edit that out.
I'm not doing shit. This is all on him.
I'm all over it. So, other than what you show us in your posts, what does your typical day really look like?
Okay, well, I can give you an example as today because I didn't film today. So a typical day today, I'll just walk you through it. I woke up. This is not typical though because I went and got a massage. Not a massage, but like
Yeah, not a happy fun time massage,
No,
but it's something
no,
that you needed to have. Like,
yeah, right. Massage therapy. Woke up, did that, came back to the van, got the van. Like I took the Jeep, right? So let's just look at it this way. I had an errand to run this morning.
Yeah.
Went out with the Jeep, did that, came back to my tiny home on wheels, got it road ready, left the Walmart parking lot, had low power levels, turned on my new gas generator. Thanks, Ian. Powered up my EcoFlow, powered up my house batteries, got rid of some garbage, used facilities down at the park, and organized the tiny home. I mean, for me, that's almost an everyday thing. Getting the van as organized as possible. Because again, this doesn't necessarily mean that a bigger space means it's easier, because you could, like we said earlier, bigger space could just be bigger mess. But in a smaller van, when you have things like I do, you got to stay on top of it. Otherwise, it's amazing how quickly it gets away on you, right? So I spend time organizing. Do I need this? Do I don't need that? Where could this live? Where could it work better? That's like the balance of my life. And this is the shit that I cannot film. It is dull. Some people love watching that. It's like, what's that chick's name? Maria Kondo or whatever? The feng shui
I'm
chick.
sure you've seen it. Oh, yeah.
Right? And like, I get that. And people love that. They love organization and cleaning. And I can't film it because I am not interested in it. So there was none of that today, right? And it was just organizing my life and then coming back, hunkering down. At this point, this is out of the normal, meeting up with somebody and doing this much content and conversation and whatnot. But then after this, it's going to be going to a truck stop, getting a shower, and hunkering down for the night and trying to get a good night's sleep. That's really it, right? If it was an actual normal day, we can remove the appointments, we can remove the interview conversation. Let's pick my little girl up from daycare, have her for 4.5 to 5 hours in the evening, have some fun, have some food, drop her off at her mom's, start the cycle all over again. That's really, my life is defined by my little girl. Always will be. Always has been since she was born, right?
Yes, like you're not having a typical 9 to 5 day, though.
I'm not having a typical 9 to 5
So that's
day.
the thing. Like you could wake up at 11 o'clock and
That would be great.
or you could wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, there are other channels that do both of those things.
No, that means you are affording me the ability to sleep to when I want to. I haven't been able to do that for years, but I mean, yes, I could.
In theory.
Yeah, in theory, I could try to do that. I can't, but yes, I don't, and I'm very fortunate that way. I can address my health issues above all else. I don't, but I could.
So that's where it becomes interesting, because your typical day is not a typical day.
That has nothing to do with van life. That has everything to do with YouTube. Because there was a time in my van life when I was working at the shop.
Yeah.
Right? And that typical day was, alarm goes off at 7. Get up. Pull out your poop bucket. Keep your pants up. Calm down. Use it as a stool. Brush your teeth. Maybe make yourself a smoothie. Get dressed. Maybe wipe yourself down, depending on how sweaty it was the night before. Right? Get your clothes on in a bent over position or on your knees or whatever. Drive to your place of work. Put up your window blockers. Go in and do your job for 7:30 or whatever. Then I would have been up earlier, but it was a 7:30 start. Right? Do the job. Come out, take advantage of the fact that you can go to your home at lunchtime and make yourself something. Didn't have to pack a lunch, which was super cool. And then, the quitting time bell rings, so to speak. Go get my little girl, do that cycle, back down to Hotel Walmart, walk through Walmart, use the washroom, maybe pick up some supplies if needed, visit with friends if time allows, go sleep, start the cycle all over again. And that was a typical 9 to 5. So you can't. Right now, so fortunate I don't have to do that anymore. Don't miss it.
That is a big thing.
Don't miss it. If you miss a 9 to 5, it's only because you're a creature of habit. It's not because you actually want to earn money for somebody else.
Yes. That's a big thing.
Sorry. Right?
So we've touched on it a little bit, but let's get a little bit more specific. So how do you take care of things like your cooking, your laundry, And like, I know how you take care of this,
Yeah.
like your hygiene and stuff like that. I know the answer.
Yeah.
But not everybody knows the answer.
For sure. No, that's fair.
You
Okay.
cover a fair bit on your channel.
I try to, because again, I get feedback. I guess that speaks to the previous question about how does the audience influence the content, or however it was that you worded it. A lot of people say that they enjoy the day-to-day stuff. Either they just enjoy watching it because I'm just like them, or they're new to the channel and they want to see how it's done, which is exactly the same reason why you're asking this question, I would assume. So start with laundry. Well, there's no washer and dryer in the van, so it's laundromats. And I spoke fairly recently about how I appreciate having to do that. Again, full disclaimer, I used to do it at my cousin's house a lot back in the early days. Now it's laundromat because it's just more convenient for me. And I love that I've been forced to do it that way, because now that I'm staring down getting sticks and bricks, I'm not limited to a place that has it in suite. Who gives a shit? That's no longer a box that has to be checked for me, because, okay, I'll throw it into a bag, I'll hop in the Jeep, I'll go to a laundromat. Whereas before I would have been like, oh, no, I'm not renting a place that doesn't have a washer and a dryer. That is a must for me. So that's a small thing, but it's a thing. So that's a great day. I shouldn't say it's a great day. Calm down, not oversell it. But going to the laundromat is an easy day, because I'm going to go there, I know where I'm going to be, and now I can get stuff done. Either it's going to be filming while the laundry's on, or editing while the laundry's on, or relaxing while the laundry's on. In my home, I don't have to sit in those uncomfortable chairs in the laundromat. I can go to the van that I built while it's on. Hey Siri, set a timer for XYZ, right?
Yep.
So that's definitely nice. In terms of prepping food, I try on my channel to show it as much as I can. I will say this, one of the biggest cons of a low roof van, and I can say this with confidence because I just came into the bus, is a pain in the ass. Low roof sucks. Low roof cooking sucks. I may have just addressed that. Stay tuned. But up till this point,
spoilers!
It's been air fryer, right? It's been induction cooktop. It's been propane stove. That's great. They all work. It's a pain in the ass, though. Like, it really, truly is. More often than not, you'll see me do more cooking when I'm camping and when the weather's nice, because I can be outside on a picnic table or on my now fold-down table. Inside, I make it work for entertainment purposes. By and large, I'm really not enjoying doing it. I'm not really. I eat because we got to eat, but I would rather go to McDonald's. I'd rather go to a restaurant. I'd rather get somebody else to cook for me. It's doable in a pinch. I feel like I've shown that. Let's move on. You know what I mean? Like, I love to, it's frustrating for me because I love to cook. So that was like a big thing to sort of give up moving into the van. Other people like Simon over at Foresty Forest does amazing stuff from what I've seen, right? With his slow cooker and the other stuff that he does. I say amazing, sure, I could reel that back a bit, but by and large, he does really well. He's a small dude with a great big cooking station. See, he prioritized his cooking station. I prioritized my bed. I'm a big guy that likes to stretch out, right? But, so yeah, cooking for me, it's not ideal. If you love cooking, try for a high top at the minimum.
Yeah.
Stand up, more space to do sort of stuff like, what was the other, you said cooking? And hygiene.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, back in the early days, my cousins, usually my cousins still twice a week. If I'm extra stinky on the in-between, wipes. As simple as Huggies baby wipes all the way up to these camper wipes that, excuse me, they have that Craze Outdoors, right? The big body wipes. In a pinch, they work great. Because I don't like going to sleep like sticky or sweaty. I hate it. Another reason why, off camera, we were talking about hairstyles and way too much gel or pomade. I haven't done my hair more than 4 times since I moved into the van.
See, we're both wearing hats because we have the hair of a disgruntled porcupine.
Yes. Mine's probably a sweaty porcupine at this point.
There you go. See? Disgruntled porcupine.
Yes. It's very true. But it's just one thing I gave up, right? Because I don't want to go, I hate the feeling of going to sleep with product in my hair. And my hair is not, my hair doesn't grow in a way that I can just wear it naturally. And I have confidence in it. I'm like, no, it just looks poofy or stupid. So I just wear hats, right? Problem solved. Or like Simon, he's even said he just shaves his head. I did that once. Not the best look for me. I moved past it. But then after that, it's gyms. And like I said tonight, truck stop. Like, I'll go to the truck stop. And I actually like the truck stops better than the gyms because they provide towels and it's private.
Very.
Right?
That is one of the big things that, I drove truck for a little while, and it was one of the things that I actually enjoyed was when you're filling up, they give you a free shower. It's like we're getting 400 gallons of fuel all at once.
Yeah.
Like if you've got two 200-gallon tanks, like, yeah, you're throwing in a free shower or two for that one, like for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But that's one of the things where that was nice for me.
Yeah.
So like for you might have to pay $15 or $20 to go and have the shower, but let's be fair, it's worth it.
Uh-huh.
Like if you haven't been to one of those truck stop showers, do it.
Especially if it's been a while, right? Like it's like really it is. When it comes to the living in a van where you don't have a shower, it's a super nice luxury to do, and you're happy to pay it. And that all comes into the fact that your overhead's lower. I don't have a bunch of money going out for mortgage or rent or whatever. Yeah, I can spend $15 to $20 on a shower.
Exactly.
Right? And it's, oh God. Are we almost done? It's getting to that point. No, I'm just kidding.
So that would be the next question is, what is your strategy for staying warm in the winter and cool in the summer?
Fuck.
Like the big question is like, okay, so you have the little air conditioner, you have the ceiling fans like I've got, like I get that. But what really do you do? Like, is it a matter of, do you find places in the shade versus in the sun? Do you find, like in the winter, do you find places in the sun versus the shade?
No. So in the summer, let's talk about heat first, because summer to me, and I know this will vary from person to person, but for me and a lot of other people, summer's the worst month to be in a van, especially one that you've built yourself where you're not at a campground and you're by and large in the concrete jungle. Worst, I said month, but I meant season ever, right? It's too hot. It's unbearable. So yeah, you're chasing shade. If you're fortunate enough to have something like the EcoFlow Wave 2 or a comparable air conditioner, you're going to want to use that. But by and large, you need like some sort of power supply that's better than the batteries that those things have, in my opinion, in my experience, I should say, not just opinion. Or you're outside. For me, I'm a big, hairy fucking Canadian, and I'm hot all the time. So it's as least amount of clothes I can put on, wife beater, shorts, and I'm outside, hopefully near a body of water. Now, granted, these are isolated moments throughout the summer because, again, we only get those insane temperatures a couple weeks in the summer that they get that bad, but that's what I'm doing. And it's miserable. And those are days where I may be showering every single night because, again, I don't want to go to bed feeling sweaty. I don't like that feeling, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, summer sucks, and there's not much you can do about it unless you got the bank to be somewhere to run an air conditioner. It's also gotten so bad, and this speaks to the whole lifestyle. The money that you save, you can put towards a hotel. Guess what hotels have? Air conditioning. Most of the time, right? And I've done that in the past. Nope, I'm not doing it. I think that was one of the reasons after the Patreon meetup. Not only was I tired, but it was going to be hot. I'm not. No, me and my hairy pussy are going into the hotel.
There you go.
And it's air conditioned, and you don't have to worry about it, right? And with the heat, you don't have to worry about the van. Leave it. Don't have to worry about your systems. Just turn it off and leave. There's no concern there. Now, conversely, winter, right? I love winter in that sense because it's way easier to warm yourself up than it is to cool yourself down, right? So while you hear a lot of the time with van life channels or people in general is the Chinese diesel heaters, right? And you can go really expensive with the name brand German ones or wherever they're from, or you can get the knockoffs off Amazon, which most people are going to do. And by and large, I've made it through 3 years of van life with the same heater. I just recently swapped it out at Christmas, actually, right? But all in all, that's about $400 all in for 3 years of heat. And they work great. And they work really good in my tiny van. In this, not as good. In the bus, not as good. Works, fine. But obviously, I think that just logically makes sense. The smaller the space, the better it's going to heat up with one of those diesel heaters. And they're actually so efficient that for me, I'm glad I have 2 ceiling fans because it can get too hot, depending on where we are on the temperature scale, right? When it gets super, super cold, still works well. Keep it going. I'm fine. I've got insulate. That's something that I knew at the beginning of my van life. I'm going to be in Alberta, in Canada, in the winter. Even if it's only a week, it's going to be, you're going to die cold for that week.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I insulated my van. Super thick. Spray foam, foam board, just like we were talking earlier, keeping it on the wall, ceiling and the sides. The floor I didn't insulate, regret that a little bit, not game changer, but it's insulated very well, which conversely is a detriment in the summer because it retains the heat, right?
Yep.
But I'd rather remain warm than cold. So that's great. Like the heater, you can use blankets, weighted blankets, like you mentioned earlier, just for comfort, come in great. When you're cold, layering up, Sleeping bags I've used in the Jeep when I've slept, which are great. I don't have a lot of experience with them, but the one that I do worked really well for me. And then again, to go back to bring it full circle, gets too cold, go into a hotel because they also heat them. Did you know that?
Yeah, I've heard.
It's a very well kept
stories.
secret that the hotels are heat. No, I'm just kidding. But the difference is you don't necessarily. I don't want to leave my van in the cold, so I will still leave my systems running. I'll leave the diesel heater on a little bit lower because myself and the putty tat aren't in there. But if it's going to be that cold, I don't want my batteries freezing, especially if you're using LifePO4 batteries, lithium batteries, right? They don't get along well with the cold. Also, it's very sad when your house gets really cold. It happened to me once where my van broke down and I wasn't in it for a few days during a cold snap, and you come back in and your curtain is rigid. It's so cold.
Yeah.
With just the fabric curtain you can like hold horizontally is crazy. You just got this air of depression about it. So I like to keep my systems going. So in the winter, even if you're not in it, you still want to keep it running, right? At least in my opinion, I like to do that. So that's it. No big secret.
Well, there you go. That's the questions that people have.
Right? It's fair. It's fair.
Like, how do you stay warm other than just with the little heater? Like, how do you do it? Now, you've answered that, which is great. But you mentioned sleeping in the Jeep. So now I really have another question for you. Mm-hmm. What's it like having two vehicles, and how do you compensate when you're trying to get from A to B? So you've got, like, we're in the same boat. We've got a small dinghy that goes behind. I call it a dinghy. Well, actually, I'm calling it the Toad now.
Yeah, it's a Toad. That's right.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a little tiny Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun. Not my flavor, it's Marcy's flavor, but still. It's her car, she can do what she likes.
Yeah.
But anyway, the idea is, how do you manage having the two vehicles?
So what do you say? So narrow it in. What do you mean by manage?
So what is it like from one day to the next, having the two vehicles?
Well, I mean, it's a hard question for me to answer just because I've become so accustomed to it.
Okay, so what was it like in the very beginning versus now?
It was a little sketchy, not sketchy, but it was a little scary because I was like, how am I going to make this work? Because for the first time I moved into the van, it was like, well, I got my van. Everything's in here. I'm living in the van. I'm paranoid about the van. I don't want to leave the van. But it was nice because no matter where I went, the van was always with me, right? I think I'm very fortunate where we live because I hear a lot of horror stories from people from other places in the world where they're like, I couldn't leave my car parked there. It would get broken into. I'm like, that's a fucking Cracker Barrel. Why are so many thieves hanging out at Cracker Barrel? Where do you live? Or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
So, and I understand that there's worse places in the world to live. I think, by and large, where we are is amazing, and I've slowly become okay with leaving one behind. And it is what it is. You know, insurance is a thing. Life is life. We can't take it with us when we go. And I lean more so on the fact that I think it's pretty effing cool that I basically have a giant Lego set that I can take with me wherever I go when I want to. Like, there's something to be said for the fact that I can attach a Jeep to a cargo van and go wherever. Like, I just find that so ludicrous at the end of the day. I've kind of become accustomed to it for sure. But when I initially had the thought, I was like, can I even do this? Like, will it even work? Like, I knew physically it would work, but I'm like, why am I doing it? I mean, obviously the reason why I'm doing it is that it's better gas mileage than the van, right? And I have my little girl, and I have more running around to do with her that would make more sense in a more economically viable vehicle. Somebody's going to be like, it's a Wrangler. It's not economically. Shut up.
It's a man's choice.
Yeah. No, Jeeps are cool. And I've loved them. They're garbage. They really are. Mine's been great, but they have been garbage ever since Fiat took over. That's just the way it is. And I don't have to get into those specifics there. But I love Jeeps, and I love the idea of tethering my vehicles together. And I'm just so happy that my life is where it's at, that I can do this, because it's absolutely ludicrous. I get that. Not having two vehicles, but towing one with the other. That's the ludicrous part. But no, for me, since my van life is leaning into my responsibilities as a parent, it only made more sense for me to not be bringing the entire lumbering home with me every single place we went. It's easier to pull up to a playground full of children with a bright yellow Jeep Wrangler than it is a questionably colored cargo van. Just saying.
It is what it is.
I would still do it, and I have. There's also a drawer full of candy, but let's just say the Jeep's a little easier to get away with.
Yeah, I'm not stupid. You got to show me the candy before I'm getting in the van.
Right? No, yeah, and then again, The logistics of it is you have to invest a little bit of money into it to make it safe and secure to tow something like that. And
Yep.
as you know, you got to have a brake system in case the vehicle breaks away. You have to make sure that your vehicle can tow it safely to spec and all of this and whatnot. So you can't just do it willy-nilly. You know, it's not zip ties that it's attached with and shit. But it's an investment. It's a lifestyle choice. And again, as we keep going back to, when you have the ability, because of everything else you're not spending money on, if it's not flannels, it might as well be a tow system that I'm rewarding myself with.
It works.
It
That's
does.
the big thing. So here's another question, because we're talking about the two different vehicles. So this is going to tie in nicely. What's the biggest, most memorable adventure that you've had because you live in a van?
Waking up under the bridge, without question. I've had a lot. Don't get me wrong, and I catalog it all here on the on my channel. But waking up under the bridge, the stereotypical living in a van down by the river. You can find it. It's from chapter 2 of my van life, which was the first year that I was living full-time in the van. You can't even get there anymore. And this is what breaks my heart. They blocked it off. But there was a spot just outside the city where you could get off the highway, down onto the gravel, and right underneath the bridge. I did a live stream from there after the fact. Would go down there in the hot weather. Great way to beat the heat. But the very first time I did it, it was myself, and my putty tats. May you rest in peace. And I woke up that morning, I opened my door, and there was a river, and there was an overpass, and I was just overcome with this sense of like awe. Like and I said it then, and I still believe it now, you can literally do anything you want in this world if you put your mind to it. And it's just so true. And I don't know that will ever be completely trumped by any experience I might have going forward. Like I said, I've had a lot of great experiences, but that one is such an easy answer when asked that question, because it was that moment of freedom. I woke up here, nobody bothered me. I didn't bother anybody else. I don't owe anybody any money. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm on my terms. It's like it was like part you can do whatever you want, and part little boy, I built a fort and I went where I wanted to go. And it's just, I don't know, nobody stopped me. And I think it's a lot of that, like living in fear of, no, I can't do that. Why can't you? Well, because I can't. It's not allowed. Who says it's not allowed? Well, I don't know. It's just not allowed. No, you can. You can go park by a river. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, why not?
Right? I don't know.
Like,
Man.
I don't have to work 9 to 5. I don't have to live in a regular sticks and bricks house.
Yeah, I wasn't working then yet.
It's like, I don't have to. But that's the big thing. Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Screw you. I don't want to do it.
Exactly. Like,
So here's another question that ties into that one. Have you ever considered giving up the lifestyle? I mean, I know where you're going, but that's not the question.
Yeah.
The question is, when you were struggling, when you're trying to make things work, have you ever thought about giving it up?
I mean, the obvious answer is yes. Like I have to imagine that there have been moments where I've gotten so frustrated with the day-to-day stuff where I've had that thought. There has to have been. I can't specifically remember a moment, but I mean, it doesn't take much to get aggravated with, oh, I can't stand up. Oh, this hurts. My knees are wet. There's too much stuff in here. But even saying that now, I don't know that I've ever wanted to get out of it because of that. I think that kind of goes into the fact that I'm a stubborn person. I made the choice to do it, and it truly is where I wanted to be. So I don't think I've ever wanted to give it up in that respect. Not through frustration or regret. The only time I've ever wanted to give it up is when it came to my little girl. And it's just like, it works well on a certain level to a certain extent with her, for sure. And it always can. But I have ingrained in me certain traditions and certain values that I'm very thankful to my parents for putting in me that have now risen to the surface. And that's the only thing. I didn't even think it would. I was so stubborn at the beginning. I was like, fuck it. Somebody was like, when she gets older, how is she going to have friends over to your house? Fuck you. That's how. That was my gut response, right?
Yeah.
Because I was pig-headed. I was like, I still do believe I can make it work. If I really, truly needed to do that, I'm like, all right, we'll get a place. We'll rent an Airbnb. There are options for sure. But like I said, those values and those traditions that are instilled in me makes me want to build an actual home where she can create a space that's hers.
Yeah,
that's not
putting down roots.
That's not in a parking lot. Yeah, exactly. Because again, family does mean a lot to me, and it's hard with the situation that I'm faced with. It's tumultuous at best, and I'm doing my best to get back on track for a family, right? So that's a big part of it. So yeah, that's about the only time I've ever wanted to give it up, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm actually really thankful for that. Huh. Interesting. Sorry, I surprised myself with that answer. I thought for sure it'd be like, yeah. Penny took a big dump and I was like, I'm done. But nope, even that, I'm like, I'm good. I don't.
Well, there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
stuff happens. Like life happens.
Yeah, it does.
But it's one of those things. Like how do you overcome wanting to give it up? And you just said you never really wanted to. So
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, because people are going to have that, you also might not have the option. Like, you can't just, it's not just a white or black question where it's like, oh, I'm in the van life, I'm frustrated, I'm just going to give it up. What if you can't?
yeah, now what do you do?
Right? You just, that's the point where you have to lean on as much positivity as you can. Be thankful for what you have. Know that tomorrow is going to be a new day. It's very cliche stuff for sure, but you kind of have to focus on that because it's so easy to get lost in the negativity for, like being like, oh, this today didn't go the way I wanted it to. Fuck that. I'm not going to do anything tomorrow. It's easier to throw in the towel than it is to press forward, no matter what, whether you're in a van or not. But if you don't have, you might not have the option to just be like, well, sell the van and get a place. Who can do that? Not a lot of people.
Exactly.
Right? So you just got to, grin and bear it. Know that there's going to be bad days. And that's why it's like people were getting mad at me at the beginning. People, trolls. Well, they're still people, kind of. But they're like, oh, you can't just be positive. You can't just stick your head in the sand and just be positive all the time. That's not a way to live. It's like, I never said that. I agree, but I'm not also going to always balance out the positivity and the negativity. You have to be a mature adult and realize that, yeah, bad stuff's going to happen, but it's more beneficial for you to focus on the positive things in your life, right? So I think that's how that goes. Anyway, sorry. Got off track there.
No, that's perfectly good. So just for all things to be considered, there are quite a few questions left, but it's not super long.
All good.
I just want to make sure that you're
Oh,
aware.
lightning round.
Lightning round. There you go. So what advice would you give to someone who is just starting into van life? Like, for an example, I'm starting into van life, but it's obviously a very different kind of van life that I'm going to have versus you.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone else was saying, I bought a cargo van and I'm going to build it,
Mm-hmm.
what advice do you have for that guy?
You utilize what you have at your disposal. Again, to go back to the internet. If you ever have a question, don't ever feel alone. Reach out, type it into YouTube. Chances are somebody's already done it, and you're going to get inspired by it. And just always, no matter where you go, wherever you end up, be respectful. Don't ever act like the world owes you anything. Act like you still want to be part of the world. It's very easy for us to sit here and raise our pitchforks and say society's terrible, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. It's so easy to do that. But if you're going to continue to exist inside it, you got to be respectful. Because you're still part of that society. The fact that I can go into Walmart and use the washroom whenever I want is a privilege. So don't start your van life and think that you can just do whatever you want in the parking lot and have garbage. You know what I mean?
Touching on that one, it's a personal thing. It's a personal. I know how you feel about this. I know how you feel. I feel the exact same way. There are some people where they're parked next to a snowbank. It's like nobody will notice if I just toss my garbage over. Like,
Yeah.
don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
There are people that and I'm throwing BC under the bus because this is where I saw it happen the most. But you've got people living like a Class A motorhome like this, where they've got a pile of, I'm going to call it crap, that's next to them that is as big as their entire rig. They've got like 4 tarps over top of it. And like, don't be that guy.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
This is a business.
Yeah.
They need to run as a business. You're abusing that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it. You're going to ruin that for everybody else.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that would go back again. What would you give this person that's just starting? What advice would you give them? You don't need that much shit. Now, that's coming from a person who's got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff, but you don't see it outside of my van. It's frustrating for me on the inside, sure, but it doesn't exceed my grasp. So I see that, and I can see that happening a lot. Like, because people are just like, well, listen, I got dealt a shitty hand. I've got all of my worldly possessions. I have to live in this vehicle. I'm not going to give up my worldly possessions because it wasn't my fault that the world decided to take a dump on me. I'm going to keep my stuff here. No. Listen, that's
not how that works.
You don't need that stuff, okay? Yeah, your life sucks right now. You were dealt a shitty hand. It's also just stuff. You can get it back. And like I said at the very beginning of this, I used my stuff to build my van. Anything else I didn't need, I donated, I sold to pay for shit to put in the van. You got to be able to let go of stuff. And I think I've proven too, over time, you can get it back. You can afford to get it back. Don't hoard onto your stuff and think that you are owed this. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about family heirlooms. I'm talking about the 14 patio chairs that you have under said tarp or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not everybody. That's a very specific thing, sure. But
Yeah, there's a very small number of people that do that, but still.
the people
just
that do ruin it for everybody.
For throwing something like, I'm going to throw out my clam in a big gazebo kind of thing like we have the Bears Den. So I'm going to throw something like that. I'm going to put my fire pit in it. Sure, great idea. Where are you, though? Are you on the side of a street in somebody's neighborhood? Don't do that. Don't be that guy.
No, especially not in residential. Like, don't do it at a place of business. Definitely don't do it in a residential area. You're going to jail. Maybe not jail, but it'd be worse.
Yeah, don't do it. Just don't. I don't care what the consequences are. Just don't be that guy.
No. There's no reason to.
Like, I'm all for throwing out the Bears Den, throwing a barbecue in there. Like, I've got a barbecue, like the fire pit.
Yeah.
We've got the same fire pit or a similar fire pit. Like, I am all for throwing that thing out, but I'm not doing it in the middle of a Walmart. I'm not doing it in the neighborhood. I'm not doing it in A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Am I at a park where I can do that? Am I at a campground where I can do that?
Yeah.
If I am, great, have at it. Other than that,
Yeah.
really, you don't need to be that guy.
You have to
So
be
don't that
respectful.
guy.
You got to be appropriate of your surroundings. It's just the way it is.
Well, exactly. So here's the thing. So, what is one mistake that you made in your van life journey, that you would tell someone else starting out, don't do this?
Oof, I haven't made any mistakes. That's hard.
Well, being perfect, I mean, really.
No, that's not true at all. But I don't. Okay, that's a tough one because I'd actually have to think back. You try not to remember your pratfalls or whatever. Oof. I mean, I can go very specific and say don't build overhead cabinets where your head's going to be, because that's one thing I hated on my original build was my overhead cabinet above my counter. But in more grandiose statement, ooh. That's a very hard question. I'm not trying to say I haven't done anything wrong, but I've always tried to go back to the first question, very respectful of where I am, and I haven't had any brushes. I haven't had any pushback. I haven't had any issues. So I'm gonna have to take a mulligan on that question.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's go in the other direction then. What resources have been invaluable to you in your van life journey?
Walmart. I mean, that's an easy answer. Walmart has been invaluable. Public restrooms have been invaluable. And honestly, if we're talking very, very specifically to me, I can't ignore the fact that my YouTube community has been invaluable. Right? Not everybody's going to have that, and I understand that, but for me, it is. And I guess you could attribute that to almost any community or people around you, right, that are going through it as well. It's good to have support to lean on, for sure. But yeah, the public services that are made available to you, and that's goes hand in hand. Be respectful of where you are. Continue to use those services, right? It's a privilege to be able to do that. It's a privilege for me to go inside, use the washroom. It's a privilege for me to go to the library, have a quiet place to do some work. It's a privilege for me to go to a gym, even if I have to pay. They're there, and I'm paying for that service, right? It's just like anything else.
Yeah.
You don't abuse other services that you pay for in sticks and bricks. It's the same for all of this stuff. It's just like you want to be like buck society, get off the grid, this, that, and the other thing. Then you need to go live in the bush.
Yeah,
that's the only way. And good luck. I hope you can do it because your attitude sucks otherwise. So by and large, for most of us, yes, I do agree with that. Buck the system. I don't agree with a lot of it, but I'm still in it. So again,
it's one of those things. Yeah, we could talk about that for another 20 minutes, but
right.
Let's go into the personal question now. Where's some places that you are dreaming of visiting?
Oh,
like you obviously can't for reasons that we talked about off camera, but we're going to keep it there.
Yeah.
But where would you want to go? Where do you it's travel, whether it's on this continent, Europe, Africa, Asia, wherever. Like where do you want to go?
We'll go broad because we'll keep it around van life, but to go broad and ignore the van, I want to go to Ireland. I think that would just be super cool to go. I love the culture. I love the color green. That's all you need. That's the prerequisite to go to Ireland. That's it. And leprechauns. No, I'm just kidding. I would love to go to Ireland, though. It looks beautiful, especially from a photographer's standpoint. That's definitely overreaching just right now, so we'll bring it back to van life. And if I could, my two places I want to go to no matter what is I want to go out east. I want to go to the Maritimes. I want to go to Newfoundland, Labrador, PEI, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, all of that in my own country. Before that, I want to rush the Northwest Territories border just because I've never been that far north in my own province, and I just want to cross that border, say I did it in the van that I built. And if I am allowed by the universe to keep this van life of mine going for however long, I want to drive to Mexico. I've been to Mexico via plane. I just think it'd be super cool. I don't know that I would, just because of the stuff you hear. Because I would love to be able to like drive my van to like Cancun or Puerto Vallarta. Don't know that I'd make it that far. You know what I mean? So that might be a bit of an ask to drive the van there, but it would be a very cool road trip to do. Even down into the States, a little bit more would be fun. But for myself, I would love to just get back to Mexico to relax. That's about it. I don't have a lot of aspirations to do. I've never had the travel bug per se, and I've never been overseas. So yeah, I think Ireland would be the one place to go there. Have myself a Guinness. I fucking hate Guinness, but I'll do it while I'm there.
Got to drink from the boot.
Right?
There's
the
a glass
Dublin
boot. I mean, it's massive, but it's one of those things. Like, you got to do it. So now here's another question for you. Do you plan to upgrade your rig? And by that, I don't mean we're going to build Lucky 3.0. We're not talking about that. Do you plan on upgrading the rig itself? Are you going to go, whether it's a newer version of the same cargo van, a high top, or maybe a ProMaster, or get wild and go with a Class A?
Yeah.
Like, what would you consider doing something like that in the future?
Yes, I would consider it. I consider it all the time for sure. And a lot of those are great. I love the idea of projects. And this is one of the reasons, if you're following me on my channel right now, the bus is such a point of contention for me, because it could be a project. And I know I would make it one no matter what. And that's not where my passion is right now. My passion is very much getting back to sticks and bricks. But to keep it on point with the question, for all of those options that you laid out there, as appealing as it would be to get a high top van, like a Sprinter, and build it out, or something like this, I've been talking about it for a long time, and it's probably the itch that needs to be scratched. It's 50-50 right down the middle. I buy a bare bones cargo trailer and build it out from scratch, or I get a camper and a truck for camping purposes with my family. Those are the two routes I see myself going. And that's why I love the campers, like the bare bone campers like Scout, and there's a couple other companies out there like that. Lightweight campers that you can that are modular and to a certain degree.
As ironic as it is, you could even put a Scout on your Wrangler.
Yeah, I could. Well, no, not on the. I don't know that the Wrangler could. I know the Gladiators can. I don't know.
Yeah,
no, you're talking not a Scout. I know what you're talking about. Those, what the hell is the name of them?
They're small enough and light enough. I thought Scout was the one.
No, it's not this. They'll fit on the Gladiators, like where because you need an actual bed.
Yeah.
Like a truck box. So like the Rangers, the Tahoes, and the Gladiators, there are a small camper. I would not want to live in that full time. It's just too small, but for camping, it'd be perfect.
It really is.
The Wranglers themselves have, I can't remember the name of the company, but they make one that actually replaces the hard top, and it snaps on, and then it's a pop-up tent.
Yep.
Built in kind of thing. It's not Scout though. It's a different company. Those are awesome. Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. But yeah, that would be cool too. That, or like I said, a cargo trailer that might potentially small enough that Grace could tow, could be a really fun DIY build. But all of that stuff costs money to different degrees. And once I get the physical roots location for myself and my little girl, then it'll be easy to start considering other things.
We're going to come back to that one in a minute, because it's an interesting topic, and I like where you were going with it, because it's totally different.
Yeah.
It's not van life in a specific van.
Right.
But it's still the nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah.
I want to approach that again in a minute. So let's ask a really pointed and personal question. Feel free to ignore it. We can edit it out, or we can talk about it. It's up to you. But how has living the lifestyle that you have, living in the van, the nomadic life, how has that impacted you mentally and physically? Like, I'm not saying has it been a detriment. I mean, maybe it was a super positive thing, but where has that brought you?
Mentally, it's definitely been beneficial. I know there's a lot of people out there that struggle with stuff like that. I can't sit here and start to pretend like I am a big czar or expert on that. I can only speak to my personal experiences. I guess I am very much from the generation of suck it up princess. Not to my detriment though. I've just been able to use that approach to my life as a means to get over the small bullshit that could easily affect other people, and I get that, and I'm not oblivious to that fact. By and large though, all of the stress that could have affected me on that mental level hasn't. And it's actually been a bigger boon. And that's what I try to get across on my channel, is that you take your life back into your own hands, start living your life for you, whatever limitations or challenges that might come your way, you're still going to come out the other end in a more positive, stronger way. That's how I feel anyway, because I really wasn't living my life on my terms before that. Doesn't necessarily mean that van life is the answer for everybody, but it is a matter of living your life for you. No, that's why this chapter of Van Life Plus is called Captain. Like, spoilers for the end, but I kind of talked about it in the first episode anyway. I wasn't the captain of my life. I was not steering my ship in the right direction. I was allowing people to steer it for me, and I was miserable, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. It wasn't until I started doing this. What do I want to do? Because there's a lot. It's funny because a lot of people get shit on when they say, I got to put myself first. Oh, well, then you're an egotistical, self-centered prick. Like, listen, you cannot be expected to help other people until you are very secure with who you are and know what it is that you can provide and bring to the table. And I was not there. I probably wouldn't have been able to do that for my daughter, let alone anybody else. Nobody deserves it more than my daughter. But I needed to rein my life in, gain control, remove the negative people from my life that were literally holding me back and making me think that my life was only worth X, Y, Z, when in fact it was worth far more than that. And I had nobody to blame but myself. And again, like I was saying, I really wanted to do van life. I wanted it. I did it, and it helped me. It was, I needed a win. And I slowly started to take my life back. So ever since then, and yeah, I get it. I got super lucky. My YouTube channel took off, and I finally got the ability to do for a living what I wanted to do since I was a little boy. And that's a huge get for sure. But it all kind of goes back to the fact that I started living my life on my own terms. So mentally speaking, it's been nothing but uphill and absolutely amazing. Physically, well, you might have been noticing me rubbing my neck for the last 45 minutes. I've had back surgery with a fusion. I've had half my toe sliced off, and I hurt all the time. But hey, take the good with the bad.
Welcome to Tiny Home Living.
That's right.
That's why I don't have a tiny home.
Right?
Like, screw tiny home. I'm done. But then there's another question, though, that ties into that. Have you picked up any new hobbies?
Honestly, not particularly, no, because I've always been a person that loves the hobbies that I have. There's the relaxing ones, which are video games. I talk about them fleetingly on my channel, but I come from a generation where that was a huge part of my childhood, and I still dabble in it in my adulthood, so that's nice. But again, that's for me, that's relaxing, that's unwinding. After that, my hobby is my job. And that's where, again, I'm very thankful that that happened. The old saying like, oh, if you love what you do, then you won't work a day in your life. Well, I mean, I already worked a bunch of days in my life, so I can't say that. But going forward, it is working. It's a hard hill to die on. When people come into my comments and they're like, get a job, do some work. It's very hard for me to go in there and like, listen, motherfucker, it is work. But that's a hard pill for me to swallow, because I know where they're coming from. They're stuck in the mentality that I need to be out there working for somebody else, doing 9 to 5. And so again, for me to defend my point, I know it's hard work. The amount of hours that I put in to film, to talk to the camera as long as I do, to edit it, to add everything that I do and upload on the frequency that I upload, yeah, that is work. But it's hard for me to define it like that because I enjoy it so much. So again, I got to pick my battles when people start acting like douchebags, but it is what it is, right? I can't keep arguing with morons in the comments, but yeah, that's what I enjoy doing. Where were we?
We're nearing the end.
Wildly off topic there.
So that'll help out. We're nearing the end. So one of the last questions that I have is, if you could go back in time to when you first started out, you were first in the alleyway and you were cutting up a bunch of furniture so you could make new furniture. You're doing that. You're insulating. You're putting the walls up. You could go back to that guy. The man that you are now goes back to the man that was. You could give yourself advice. What would it be?
Don't make the bed into a couch. Let's bring it full circle. There's not, I don't know what else. And don't install the overhead cabinet. I mean, honestly, everything else on my journey, I've been very appreciative of. There's nothing, I mean, it's easy to be like, go back and say, get a high top. It's easy to go back and say, don't do the van, get a real job. Like, none of that's true. I don't believe any of that. I can only go back and say the tactile things that I believe in. Don't waste your time in your effort. There's 5 videos of me building that stupid bed. 5. It's too many. I could have just put a platform down and been done with it. But no, it had to turn into a couch. Don't do it, mother effer. And the hanging cabinet could stay away too. But And maybe the sink's not as important as it needs to be. It all comes down to the build. I don't regret anything. There's nothing else I could tell myself. I know who I was then. I wouldn't want to deprive myself of the experience that I've had, learning what I've learned, taking my life back into my own hands. It's all been part and parcel. The actual physicality of it, the experience that I've had, the family I've grown closer with, the friends that I've made along the way, and the success that I've had, I wouldn't want to risk any of that going away. So all I can go back to and address is the actual build part of it. That's literally it. Because all that affects is me on a unfundamental level. You know what I mean? Like I want to experience everything because I've gotten exactly where I need to be, I think. Again, I'm not an expert, but that's how it feels.
Well, absolutely. Because I think about, people ask me about my life because I've had a bit of an interesting and colorful life. If I could go back to me when I was 18, given where I'm at now, I would go back to myself and say, don't give up, shut your mouth, and stop whining. That's it. That's all I could tell myself, because everything that I've been through created the man that I am today. I'm not trading that in.
No.
Like, screw you. There were terrible things that happened. Like, yeah. I survived it.
Yeah.
Take that away from me. Go ahead. Try.
Yeah.
Like, you'll pull back a stump. That's not happening.
Yeah, and it's not worth it. It's easy in the moment when things are going bad. This is why I spent the last chapter talking about all of the heartbreaks in my life. And as sappy and bullshitty as that might have appeared to a lot of people, it's because that made a big part of who I am. And it's so easy at the time when things are going so wrong and your heart is breaking so much and you're feeling so much pain to just wish it away. But if you do that, what are you really learning? What are you taking away from it? So it's exactly what you're saying. No, push through it. It makes who you are. And by the end of it, you're going to be appreciative of what you have, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so now, last question. We're going to, because I'm sure we're dragging
Tiger ice cream.
these poor people. Absolutely, Tiger ice cream. There you go. Okay, we're done.
Woo! No, go ahead.
So the question really is, if you had unlimited resources, you could not only get yourself an apartment, you could buy yourself a house. But just say you have a house. Don't care about the house. That's not important.
Yeah.
You have unlimited resources now. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to build another van? Are you going to get a bus? You're going to get a Class C like your parents have? You're going to redesign and rebuild that? Or are you going to, what are you going to do?
I'm going to get a Ford Raptor R. I'm going to put as much money into it as I need to make sure that the suspension can hold a massive camper, and I'm going to Baja the shit out of that thing. I don't know.
There you go.
I mean, it's yeah, you say I already have the house. I already have the spot for me and my little girl. I got unlimited money. Oh, let's give it to charity. That's great. Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, but you have unlimited resources. Yeah, you have unlimited resources to do something.
Give them 99%, and I'll take the 1%, which is still unlimited. And that's what I get. I don't know. If you got to have dreams, you got to have fun. That's it. Just have some fun. You're here for a good time, not a long time. Hey,
there you go. Now that's the point.
That's literally it. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So if you were going to build something, you're going to have the truck.
If I was going to build,
kit out the truck however you like.
Yeah.
You're going to have a camper on the back. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Like, I can't yuck your yum.
Yeah. Honestly, okay, we'll bring it back a little bit more. Like, have fun, Baja truck. But I think my heart is really in a bare bones cargo trailer, because I do love building. I love the creativity of it, and the trailer is way more straight than a van. Don't have to worry about bullshit.
No curved roof, curved walls,
right.
A roof that's got a little bit of curve, and you just square walls, square roof, and you're done.
Right.
It'll be a lot easier.
I could put a couch bed in there, and it'd be Bob's your uncle.
A couch bed. Yeah, you can put a couch bed in there and then never turn it into a couch again. But that's legitimately, that's the question. What are you really going to do?
Yeah.
So
I would just keep doing that, I think. Honestly, if I had unlimited resources, I would just keep doing that. I love the idea of constantly building things, of constantly challenging myself to perfect it. I mean, I did that with the rebuild on Lucky from 1 to 2. So I would get a cargo trailer. I'd build that out. Cool. Sell it. Or keep it. Right? Give it to somebody else, whatever. Then I go buy a van, build that. Whatever I'm feeling, whatever the flavor of that month might be. If I have unlimited resources, that's what I see myself doing. Because I'm hoping the home that you gave me, there's lots of space. Well, some might flirt with the word compound. I don't know. But place to put all of this
whatever
nonsense,
works
right?
for you.
And then whatever I'm feeling, take out and do my camping trips. Because I don't ever want to see that change. I don't ever want to see my camping trip stop. I don't ever want to see my enthusiasm for the outdoors with my little girl and my family diminish. But it'd be sure fun to have something different every time we go.
Well, there you go.
Right? That's about it.
The way that I look at it, and this is going to be interesting for you, the way that I'm looking at things in my life is that I'm not trying to get to a position so that I'm done, I'm there, I made it. It's like, no, I want to get there so that I have enough experience to bring someone else there. Then I'm going to go find something else. And then I'll have enough experience there that I can bring someone else to where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to be progressing. I always want to be doing.
Yeah.
So like I've gotten good with photography. Like
that's why
okay.
hobbies like these make a lot of sense. And I've been comparing photography to the van build aspect for a long time. They're both two things that you will never be done learning.
Exactly.
Right? You can never be that's it. I'm the photographer. I know it all. Nope. You can always do something to get better with it.
Yeah.
Same with building.
Do something
a van.
different.
You can always make it a little bit better. You can tweak this. There's something else you can learn. It's never ending. I mean, you could say, "Oh, I'm done," but you're just limiting yourself.
You're just being lazy.
They're hobbies that always keep giving.
Well, it's like I was saying, like just because I'm good with photography, like okay, am I good with macro photography? No.
Yeah.
Am I good with events? No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then I'm not done.
Yep.
I have more to do.
Yep.
Just like when you do your build, and it's like, okay, the build is finished. I've used it, and now I give that to someone else. I gift them what they need so I can start over and build something else.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. That's what we have for questions.